In a world ruled by power, where mercy was weakness, and emotions were meant to be erased, one impossible thought emerged. What if Rimuru fell in love? Not love born from peace, but love born in a world of enemies, war, and sacrifice. For a demon lord who could destroy nations, one single feeling would become his greatest weakness, or his most terrifying strength. Because when a being like Rimuru loves, the world doesn't just change. A normal day in Tempest, bird chirping, children playing, adults working. Peace spread over the land, humans and monsters working together in harmony. Rimuru's dream was achieved epically. It was an extreme run, hard and full of chaos, but he did it. It wasn't done by the hero, champion, or the king. Instead, it was the demon lord who started the crusade. Now, the said peacemaker was stuck in his office with a towering pile of paperwork. Boring, this is so boring. Rimuru is crying internally, having spent years on this mundane work, and the absolute boredom he is suffering is excruciating. He was a godlike being. He defeated two of the strongest beings in this world, defeated Feldway, Michael, and even Ivaraj. Yet here he is, dying out of boredom, wasting his precious time on these useless papers filled with useless reports of other nations requesting negotiations and a treaty. Knock knock knock. Lord Rimuru, may I come in? Yes, you may. Rimuru permitted, and Shuna came in. Her graceful and well-mannered self walked with practiced etiquette. She bowed in front of his desk before she spoke. Yume-sama and Majoran-sama had come to visit and are currently waiting in the guest room. Shuna smiled as she finished. Shuna and Rimuru were once in a relationship, but it was before he evolved into a demon lord. It was a short relationship that ended in a promise. They do have feelings for each other, and Rimuru wanted it to go to the next level, but Shuna insisted on not. She was shy and sensitive when it came to physical relationships. The most intimate thing they did was hold hands and kiss on the cheek. When Rimuru tried to kiss her on the lips, Shuna kept stopping him, gently pushing him away with a flushed face. So, in the end, they ended their relationship, and Shuna promised that, when she was ready, she will offer herself to him. They could wait for a few minutes. Let me finish this batch first, Rimuru told Shuna, as he focused on the paper he was signing. Of course, Lord Rimuru. Shuna bowed before she turned around and left. Rimuru looked at her, and when she left his office, he sighed deeply. I can't take this anymore. Rimuru looked down and saw his erect penis. He was pent up and about to break his limit. He held his head and clenched his hands in frustration while he gritted his teeth. He tried to calm himself before he stood up. Ciel's help alone was not enough. His vitality is extremely higher than anyone else's. One woman is not enough for him. Ciel might be exceptional, but she has her own limits. Master, I'm sorry for not satisfying you, Ciel apologized. They had already had sex earlier before Shuna arrived, but Rimuru was still unsatisfied. It's fine. Ciel, thank you for accompanying me. I really appreciate everything. Rimuru comforts his beloved partner before he stands up from his chair. I guess it's time to meet Yume and Majoran. Rimuru hasn't met the couple for a while. Ever since they became the king and queen of Farmanas, they have been so busy that they rarely visit. Maybe they had some free time and decided to visit. Rimuru takes his time towards the guest room, thinking about what they want to talk about. Maybe it's about the past, when they first met, or they could relate to each other because of how tiring it is to be a king of a kingdom. Rimuru smiles, thinking about it, reminiscing, and venting about their problems to each other is another form of entertainment between friends. That's why Rimuru is also excited to meet with Yume. He considers him a friend and ally. But his expectations were crushed when he came to ask for political backing against their opposing kingdom. He came to his kingdom not as a friend but as a king wanting to ask for help from his allied kingdom, which disappointed Rimuru. So, in the end, he swiftly made a decision and left it all for Diablo. But there was another thing he noticed, Majoran. She matured. It could be because of the blessing she received from his evolution. He made Majoran's heart, so in short, it was connected to him. Maybe that's why she changes. Her breasts grow bigger and her hips get wider, she looks attractive. I believe they still haven't got a child yet. Such a waste. The hell is Yume doing all this time? Rimuru decided to leave after Yume and Diablo started their negotiation, already bored. Now feeling disappointed and betrayed, Rimuru decided to take a break. He wanted to relieve himself, but Seal is still tired from their earlier session. So, instead, he is just going to use his trusty hand. Wait, Lord Rimuru, someone called him, and as he turned to look, he saw Murimu. Is there something you need from me, Majoran? Rimuru asks, and she nervously clenches her hands together under her chest. Lord Rimuru, I would like to apologize for my husband, it must have offended you, Majoran spoke, her tone soft like a whisper. Why do you think so? He's acting like a proper king, thinking of this kingdom first before anything. Yes, but I noticed the disappointment in your eyes. You must have been expecting to talk about other things than politics. Rimuru's eyes softened, and a light chuckle left his mouth. Majoran's changed greatly, not only in body, but also in mind. She's acting like a queen, really, she's a great partner to have for you. Do you want to join me for some tea, Majoran? Rimuru offered, and he saw Majoran smile and nod. That would be delightful, she answered happily. As they walked, they started talking to each other about the past, reminiscing about the events that unfolded. Majoran told Rimuru what Farmanas had experienced during and after the Tenma War. Rimuru laughed as she told him what a mess Yume had suffered. Arriving at Rimuru's personal quarters, they sat at the tea table near the window. What tea do you like, Miura? Rimuru asks as he sits on the sofa. Anything will be fine, she answered as she took a seat at the opposite side. Rimuru takes out a tea set from his stomach and serves her a hot green tea and a plate of pastries. He prepared this for this occasion. He has long dreamed of talking to his friends, but they were all busy with their work since they are all kings or empresses. So, having this peaceful talk with Majoran is a blessing for him. By the way, why don't you two have any kids yet? Rimuru asks as he sips his tea. Majoran's expression turned sad as she clenched her dress. Yume, don't really give me much affection at night. Yume is always so busy during the day that he directly goes to sleep after his work. I see, I'm sorry for opening such a topic. Rimuru apologized, but Majoran just smiled at him. Not being offended. How about you, Lord Rimuru, when do you plan to get married? Majoran asks, fully knowing it's a known fact to always tease Rimuru about marriage. As expected, Rimuru's face turns red. I don't plan to get married yet. He stammered. Whom the king of the strongest kingdom is shy about marriage, how cute. Foo, she teased, but again, her eyes turned sad. What's wrong, Gurk? Suddenly, Rimuru felt it again as he grabbed the pillow next to him and placed it on his lap. What's wrong, Lord Rimuru? I just heard you let out a pained groan. Are you not feeling well? Concerned, Majoran inquired as she stood up and walked next to him. It's nothing really, haha, he told her, but he started to sweat rapidly. His humanoid body is burning, as his member erects into its full length under his pants. Are you sure? Your face says otherwise. Majoran leaned in, facing Rimuru and searching for honesty. Rimuru's eyes wander off, trying to look away, but he always finds himself looking at Majoran. Her eyes, lips, neck, and breasts were like magnets that attracted his eyes, and Majoran noticed this. Lord Rimuru, by any chance are you checking my body? She questioned seriously, and Rimuru felt guilty. True, he was attracted to her new appearance. Her mature look was bewitching. He even watched her hips sway earlier while they were walking, imagining how soft they could be to his touch. Rimuru lowered his head, choosing not to answer, feeling guilty enough already that he was imagining having a sexual affair with his friend's wife. Majoran watches as Rimuru tightly closes his eyes and lowers his head. Taking his silence for a yes, Majoran's lips tighten, and she places her hands on his shoulders. Lord Rimuru, by chance are you sexually frustrated? She questioned, and it got Rimuru's attention. Seeing such desperate eyes, Majoran felt a sense of pride. Only once, she felt it with Yume, but after his succession to the throne, she never felt a touch of affection again. He became so busy as a king that he ended up neglecting her. So, feeling Rimuru's gaze, she felt her body itch, got hotter, and was desperate. Placing her hand on top of Rimuru's, Majoran leaned in and whispered, Lord Rimuru, do you want to do it? Rimuru's eyes widened, shocked at the offer. He leaned back and looked at Majoran's eyes, and he sensed it the same desperation he was feeling. She too is in the same position as him. Mju Majoran, Rimuru called while panting. Lord Rimuru, Majoran answered as she started to breathe heavily. And when, without any more seconds to waste, their lips connected, their tongues swirling and tasting each other. Majoran, Majoran, Rimuru called, his hand moved, and he cupped her left breast. Majoran moaned and stared directly at Rimuru's eyes as her breathing became more ragged. Yes, touch me. Rimuru's hand starts to move in a circular motion as he leans in to kiss Majoran deeply once more, this time more roughly, more dominant and aggressive. Majoran moaned as her body shivered. It's been so long since she felt a man's touch, and it made Rimuru's advances and aggression turn into pleasure. Looking down, she saw the pillow on Rimuru's lap moving up and down. Gulping, she decides to move away, and she is surprised and awed at the large tent that's been made on Rimuru's pants. So big, Majoran thought. Feeling her mouth salivate, she pulled down his pants and watched as his erect member stood up. Her mouth gapes as her eyes widen from complete shock. It's bigger and thicker than Yume's, but her thought got cut off when Rimuru pulled and then pushed her down to the sofa, pinning her under him. Watching Rimuru panting heavily, trying to control himself, clinging to his thin layer of sanity left, makes Majoran crave him more. Her own arousal starts to overcome her, eating away at her rationality, with only her primal instinct taking over. Feeling Rimuru press his penis on top of her pussy, Majoran could take it anymore and started stripping. She removed her long-sleeve shirt, revealing her above-average-sized breasts and pink nipples that instantly steal Rimuru's attention. Taking Majoran's right nipple in his mouth, he starts to suck and nibble it, making Majoran groan and moan from ecstasy. Feeling her hands trying to remove her skirt, he decided to help her. He removed his mouth from her breast and pulled down her skirt, revealing her white flower-design panties. While the two were peaking at the height of the moment, ready to fall into the depths of pleasure, they heard someone knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Lord Rimuru, are you there? Diablo called out. Hearing his subordinate, Rimuru returned to his senses, and his face contorted into a painful guilt, realizing what he was about to do. I'm here, what do you want? He replied. I had ended the negotiation with Yume. Will there be more that you need from me, Lord Rimuru? Diablo asked with absolute drowning loyalty. No, there is none. Where is Yume now? Rimuru asks as he moves to stand beside Majoran. He had left to return to Farmanas. He said he would tell his trusted advisors about the support we would provide. What about his wife, Majoran? She came along with him. Shocked, Rimuru immediately questioned. Sadly, he must have forgotten about her, Diablo replied, uninterested. Sighing, Rimuru ordered Diablo to leave. What a mess. Hearing Diablo's report, Majoran lifts herself to sit, her face adorned with a small, sad smile. She was still naked, but it doesn't matter anymore. Now it's clear that her husband thinks so little of her that he himself forgot that it was he who invited her to come along with him to Tempest. So that's it. This is how our relationship ended, Majoran commented. Her chest aches. She loved him, and this is how he returned it. I'm sorry, Rimuru apologized. Why? It was his fault. Rimuru cut her mid-sentence. No, if only I hadn't requested him to be the new king of Farmanas, your relationship would be more normal. It might be so, but he was the one who accepted the responsibility. Majoran moved and knelt in between Rimuru's legs as she leaned in and started licking the head of his penis, as her right hand stroked his shaft. GHH. Wah, what are you doing? Rimuru questioned, after feeling her soft, warm tongue and hand pleasure him. Majoran leaned back, but was still stroking his penis. I'm feeling lonely, neglected, and unloved. Please, Lord Rimuru, could you answer to my needs? Schlurp. Majoran started sucking and licking his dick and started stroking faster. Rimuru, feeling the sudden surge of pleasure, could only twitch and tremble. Please, Majoran, stop this. Majoran looked at Rimuru and stopped stroking him. Rimuru sighed. At first, he thought she would finally stop, but didn't expect her to suddenly deep-throat his cock. Rimuru gasps and grabs hold of Majoran's head as she starts to bob her head back and forth, taking his whole length in her throat. MJU, Majoran, stop, please, this is infidelity. Rimuru is still trying to reason with her. Hearing Rimuru talking about infidelity, Majoran took Rimuru's penis out of her mouth and started stroking him instead. Infidelity, foo. Lord Rimuru. Rimuru looked at Majoran and saw her aquamarine eyes turn mischievous. Did you know that I never did this kind of thing with Yume, even for a single time? I never took his penis inside my mouth, so how do you think I get this good? Hearing her, Rimuru's eyes darkened, and then he grabbed Majoran's arms and carried and then pinned her to the backrest of the sofa. Majoran looks at Rimuru, his face in rage, and his eyes are sharp, but it's not because of her infidelity. It's from something else, and that makes her smile. Did you get jealous? Jealous that it wasn't you who was first to take me away, Lord Rimuru? Her voice sounds pleased, and she pushes her head forward and stares directly into his eyes. Do you want me to be yours, Lord Rimuru? To only serve you, to pleasure you? Dark pink smoke leaks out of Rimuru's mouth. Yeah, you're right. He activated one of his ultimate skills. Lustful God open black lens bracket Zonomy close black lens bracket. Rimuru leaned in and connected his lips to Majoran's, forcing her to inhale the smoke as he played with her tongue. Majoran felt her body heat up as her pussy clench and got wetter. She felt like she could come at any second, and even from the slightest touch, and she was correct when Rimuru decided to pinch her clitoris. Single quote. She came in squirts. It was so sudden that it left her unprepared. The pleasure was stronger than usual. It was multiplied because of Rimuru's skill. One of Zamami's effects was to multiply the sexual pleasure, and Rimuru sets Majoran's sensitivity and pleasure level to 10. Feeling his hand had gotten soaked, Rimuru lifted it to show it to Majoran. Only that much, and look at the result. Majoran stared at it. Even she was surprised. The pleasure felt so good that her eyes rolled behind her head the moment she climaxed. More, she demands, and that made Rimuru smile hungrily. The sound of clapping took over the room. Majoran was sitting on Rimuru's lap and grinding her hips. They were in a lotus position. Rimuru's hand was on Majoran's waist, carrying her up and down as he licked and sucked on her nipple. Majoran was moaning loudly. Rimuru's dick was reaching deep inside her. With every thrust, its tip kissed the entrance of her cervix. Yes, faster, please, Majoran cried out, and then Rimuru changed their position. Rimuru carried Majoran and lay her on her back with one leg resting on each of his shoulders. He felt the muscles of her vagina tighten, and he began to move, now faster and much rougher. Each time his pelvis slams on her flesh, Rimuru watched it ripple. It was never the same with Seal, although sex with Seal is much more pleasurable, and she could control her tightness to suit his taste. Majoran's sex appeal felt different, since she has a more mature body than Ciel's petite frame. Yes, that's it, just like that. Rimuru, yes, more. Majoran's tongue hangs out. Each thrust of Rimuru shakes her core. She has already lost count of how many times he made her cum. It's irrelevant anymore. Nothing matters to Majoran anymore. All she could think of is the pleasure she's receiving. I'm close, Majoran, take it. Rimuru's cock starts pulsing inside her as it swells. Majoran moved her head to look at Rimuru. She reaches out of her hands and places them on Rimuru's shoulders, holding them tightly. Inside, release them inside, she said, her eyes filled with anticipation. So be it. With one last thrust, Rimuru plunges his cock deep inside, breaching through her cervix. Majoran felt it, and her mouth opened wide. She felt Rimuru's semen flooding her womb. It was hot and plentiful. But it was too much. Her vagina won't be able to take it all, and it oozes out and slides down to her anus. It's too much. So good. I'm melting. Majoran trembled, her stomach lightly swelling from the quantity Rimuru released inside her. Slowly, Rimuru pulled out his cock and lay Majoran flat on the ground. Rimuru watches as the rest of his cum leaks out, creating a pond underneath her. Looking at her face, drowned in pleasure and absolute bliss, Rimuru kneels at her center and decides to use her breast to release the leftover cum inside his urethra. After a few minutes of thrusting, he felt it was about to come out. He then grabbed Majoran's head and forced his penis into her mouth. Go. Feeling the hot mixture of his cum and her fluids, Majoran happily sucks his cock and even swirls her tongue around his gland. Slower. She sucks it hard, and then she lets go of his cock. Opening her mouth, she showed it to Rimuru before swallowing. It felt good, Majoran said with a satisfied smile. How does it feel to cheat on you? Rimuru asks. Although the sex with Majoran felt amazing, he still feels guilty. Sitting up, Majoran placed her right hand on top of her chest. Our marriage already felt stale, to be honest. My feelings for him are slowly fading, she answered, her expression was neutral and lacked the natural guilt she should have been feeling. Is that why you cheated on him with multiple men? A frown formed on his face, but after a short pause from Majoran, she started giggling. What's so funny? Rimuru, I only said that to watch your reaction, but I didn't expect you to react so heatedly. She smiled at him. Flabbergasted, Rimuru stiffens. His mouth opened and closed. He wanted to say something, but nothing came out. So does that mean? Majoran crawls in front of him and pecks him on the lips. You were the first guy the first cheated Yoon with. Rimuru gawked, and later his face turned red. He got played. You got pretty jealous, it's almost as if you have feelings for me. She leans in and presses her body against his, feeling his warmth, and then she places her face on his chest. I'm flattered. Looking down at Majoran, Rimuru sighs and wraps his hand around her body. You have always been a wonderful woman, Majoran. Once I felt hatred towards you, but I will always admit that you are beautiful. He and I will always say I'm sorry, and thank you at the same time. She rubs her face on his chest, wanting to sink deeper if possible. So, what now? Rimuru looked outside and saw that the sun was starting to set. In the end, he never comes back. He's probably still hasn't noticed it and is still in his office with his advisors working, Majoran said with a disdainful and pained tone. It's that bad, huh? He replied and felt Majoran nod in his chest. Then, stay in my room for a while until he returns tomorrow. And if he didn't, then stay here longer. He pats her head, and she looks up at him with a smile. What a sinful man, letting an already wed woman in his room. Majoran chuckled. Remember, it was you who bewitched me first, Rimuru replied with a snicker. Still feeling his cock still hard, Majoran's lips curl into a playful smirk. Then how about this witch show you a few more of her tricks? Majoran gently pushed Rimuru back and bent down. Ah, so warm. Rimuru moaned. Majoran looked up and smiled as she kept sucking and deep-throating his cock with a smile. The two had sex until Majoran ran out of stamina, and both were fully satisfied and rested while their bodies were still naked and clinging close to each other in a tight hug. Knock knock knock. Lord Rimuru, it's me, Shuna. You can enter. Rimuru permitted, and Shuna entered with her usual polite smile. She's carrying a stack of paper and gently places it on Rimuru's desk. Scowling, Rimuru looked at Shuna with a tired frown. I just finished 2 towers of paper earlier. Let me have some rest, Shuna, he complained, but as usual, Shuna only smiled. It's your responsibility, Lord Rimuru, but I'll try my best to bring only the important ones. Shuna bowed before she left, but she was a bit confused, since her Lord Rimuru's face was a bit reddish. Is Lord Rimuru feeling a bit sick? No, it must have been only my imagination. After watching Shuna leave, Rimuru sighs in relief but instantly groans. Hey, that's a bit too risky. Sherl. But it did feel good, right Rimuru? Majoran smiled sweetly and restarted sucking his cock while she rides a dildo filled with viscous liquid to simulate his penis. Rimuru made it. It has the same shape and size as his penis, and if given enough pressure, it will release the fluid inside it. It was his gift for Majoran in case Yoon came back for her, but it seems he still hasn't remembered he has a wife, since it's already half a day and he still hasn't come back. Not that both of them mind it. Ah, it's here. The dildo released its fluids inside her. Hey, don't stop. In the middle of her orgasm, Rimuru grabs her head and forces his penis inside her mouth, and starts bobbing it up and down. Each motion of his hand makes sure she takes his full length. Gahek, chirp, cock. Because she was unprepared, Majoran gagged a few times, but Rimuru didn't stop and continued to shove his penis on her throat. Here it is, swallow it all, Majoran. Rimuru pressed her head down to the base, her nose pressed on his skin. Mmmhhhh. Majoran wrapped her hands around his waist as she started swallowing his cum. After a minute, Rimuru finally released her, and she started gasping for air while still having a wide, satisfied smile. That was amazing, she spoke. Rimuru then stood up and pulled back his chair, freeing Majoran from under his table. As she stands, the dildo falls off her pussy, and it starts leaking its fluids. Noticing Rimuru's stare, Majoran smiled and pulled her skirt apart, letting him see the full view of her leaking pussy as she sat on his table and spread her legs apart. Like what you see, She smiled teasingly. Liking his lips, Rimuru smiled. Very. He inserts 2 of his fingers inside her and starts moving them in and out. Ah yes. Faster. Rimuru. Majoran moaned and then bit her lower lip. Looking at Rimuru with such hunger for her body, Majoran feels her body getting hotter as her own feelings start showing. Quickly removing her shirt, Majoran unclipped her bra, freeing her breasts from its restraints. Just as quickly, Rimuru shoved his mouth against her breast and started sucking her right nipple while his free hand played with her left, pressing and circling it roughly while occasionally pinching and pulling on her nipple. Just like that. Yes, Rimuru, only you could make me feel like this. She moaned and yelled her satisfaction as she pressed Rimuru's head deeper into her right breast, while Rimuru moved his finger faster inside her. Faster. Faster. I'm close. But Rimuru suddenly stopped, confusing her and leaving her on edge. Why? I'm so close. Rimuru smiled and sat on his chair, his penis standing tall and proud as he looked at Majoran with an entertained smile. I'm stressed, you know, from all the work I finished, and now you're making me work for you. How about you please me first? Hearing him make Majoran pout, but she did as he told and started undressing herself, and turned around, making Rimuru face her plump ass. Rimuru smiles and gently touches her smooth and silky skin, caressing it and guiding Majoran to his penis. Majoran felt his lower head touching the entrance of his pussy, and slowly, she lowered herself, moaning as it got deeper and deeper until it reached its end. MMMHH. She let out a pleased moan and started moving up and down. Rimuru watched with a satisfied smile as Majoran moved for him. He watched as her flesh rippled with every clash of their body, and her breasts, his eyes sharpened as he watched them bounce. He touches her back and slowly slides his hand down as he uses lustful God-open black lens bracket Zonomy close black lens bracket on her, making her feel 15x more pleasure than normal. Rimuru increases the multiplier, wanting to watch her sink into pleasure even more. Majoran instantly came as soon as she felt the sudden spike of pleasure increase. Her body trembled, and she fell to the floor. Her body felt more sensitive than the last time. Rimuru. She called his name questioningly. Rimuru stands up and faces her, his cock still hard and wet from her fluids. She salivates and gulps from just seeing it, and both her throat and pussy want it. Not making a decision, Majoran spread her legs and spread the folds of her pussy while opening her mouth wide, inviting Rimuru. Use me, ash ya wesh. Rimuru's cock throbs, and he salivates. Such a seductive invitation must not be wasted. To Majoran's surprise, another Rimuru appeared, and both of them carried her to the table and made her lie on her back. Rimuru aimed his penis at the entrance of her pussy, while his clone aimed at her mouth. Realizing what he intended to do, Majoran could only smile and grew hornier with anticipation. Spreading her legs and using her finger to spread the cheeks of her mouth, Majoran invited Rimuru with her tongue by sticking it out. Ah, that was the last straw as both Rimuru thrusted their penis into both of her pussy and mouth. You witch, you never fail to seduce, Rimuru said as he started pounding her pussy. You damn temptress. The other Rimuru grabbed both her breasts and thrust deeper into her mouth, his balls slapping against her nose. Slurp slurp ahhg. Majoran could never feel more appreciated. The moment both Rimuru thrusted their penis into both her pussy and throat, she came, and she never stopped coming. It was pure bliss, and she stopped thinking. Her mind was blank, and her body went limp. She let them use her like a toy, like a doll. She was his slave now. She could never live without Rimuru anymore. She'd made her decision. She'll leave Yum and stay here in Tempest. He's not worthy of her anyway. He could work all he wants. She doesn't care about him anymore. GHGN. MMHM. Majoran came again, and soon after, both Rimuru came inside her. Majoran's body trembled and her stomach bulged as both Rimuru continued to cum. You did great. Rimuru touches her bulging stomach and smiles. They both leave her holes and carry her to the ground. Her stomach slowly grows smaller as Rimuru's excess cum leaks outside her pussy. Both Rimuru moved in front of her, both their penis faced her. Ahm shirlpamham. Majoran started stroking and sucked their penis alternately, cleaning and drinking their fluids. Ready for round 2? Rimuru asked, and Majoran looked at him, and she nodded with a smile. Lying flat on the ground, Majoran spreads her legs wide, and Rimuru swiftly penetrates her pussy, making her moan. Damn, you're still so tight. He started thrusting. MHH. Yes. Deeper. Rimuru. Majoran cried out when suddenly she felt something hot and throbbing between her breasts. You're making me wait here. The other Rimuru looked down at her with a smile. Knowing what he wanted, Majoran squeezed his penis between her breasts, and he started moving his hips. Watching him move, she saw the head of his penis right in front of her, and she decided to take it inside her mouth and started swirling her tongue around its head while sucking hard. Majoran, your talent is sex is amazing. Rimuru groans, and he places his hand on the top of her hands and forces her breasts to squeeze him tighter. Watching his clone play with Majoran, Rimuru smirks and pinches her clitoris. Majoran's eyes widen as she stops sucking the other Rimuru and yells loudly. She came again. To shut her up, the other Rimuru plugged her mouth with his cock and continued to thrust into her throat. You got even tighter, Majoran. Feeling his near, Rimuru picks up the pace and pounds her even faster and deeper. The other Rimuru also starts to move his hips faster, and after a few more thrusts, they both came at the same time. Hug MHP. Slurp. Majoran's eyes widen and then soften as she slowly swallows Rimuru's cum again. She closed her eyes as she savored his flavor. After the other Rimuru left her mouth, the real Rimuru moved in and made her suck his cock. Majoran gladly welcomes him and suck his remaining cum inside his urethra. Ha ha, that felt the best. Rimuru, you really are amazing. She smiled as she panted heavily. Both Rimuru kissed her cheeks as the other one faded. You're amazing as well, Majoran. Rimuru complimented. I've decided, Rimuru. What is it? I will stay here in Tempest and will leave you eternally. She declared while looking at Rimuru. She removed her wedding ring and threw it away as she leapt towards him, arms wide, and hugged him tightly. Rimuru was shocked, but caught her. He didn't know what to do at first, but he hugged her back. Are you sure? Rimuru questioned. Yes, I'm fine, even if you don't want to make me your wife. Just give me enough attention and continue this relationship, and I'll be satisfied. She told him. Fine, but you will say it to Yum yourself, that you don't want him anymore. Okay, I'll do it, Majoran said and kissed him on the cheek. The day ends, and still, Yum didn't return to pick up Majoran. So, the next day, Majoran herself flies back to Farmanas to officially tell Yum what she felt and leave him for good. The sound of sucking and licking could be heard in the room. Rimuru is sitting on the sofa, and Seal is sucking him off eagerly while her right hand is stroking his shaft and her left hand massaging his balls. Seal, I'm coming. Rimuru grabs hold of Ciel's head and pushes her head down. Her nose is pressed against his pelvis as he shivers from the sensation, her throat is tight, and he feels it vibrate as she moans. Each time she swallows his semen, Rimuru feels her throat tighten. It feels like Seal is trying to drain him in one go. Releasing her head, Seal continued to lick his cock, cleaning it from the remaining leftover mixture of her master's cum and her saliva. You're awfully aggressive today, Seal. Are you mad at me? Seal didn't answer and just continued to suck the tip of his cock and stroke him, her eyes staring directly at him. Sighing, Rimuru gently pats her head. Come on, sit on my lap, he ordered, and Seal, without any hesitation, stood up and sat on his lap. Feeling his throbbing cock in front of her pussy, Seal starts rubbing her clit against his member, grinding in motion that will make sure to pleasure them both. You must be jealous that I'm giving another woman my attention. Rimuru moved his hand and placed it on Ciel's ass cheeks, rubbing it before sinking his fingers into her soft and smooth skin. Ciel's body momentarily stiffens, and she lightly moans after feeling her master's touch. Speeding up her movements, Ciel feels she's about to cum, but Rimuru stops her and carries her. Ciel's emotionless expression turned to shock as her master cornered her into the wall, pressing her back against it. Rimuru teased Ciel by rubbing his cock in between her already wet thighs and soaked pussy. Ma master, Ciel's soft voice called for Rimuru. Admit it, Ciel, you got jealous, right? But Ciel still didn't speak, her eyes and mouth were tightly shut. So, in retaliation, Rimuru starts rubbing faster. He feels Ciel's growing arousal, her pussy is leaking so much it looks like a fountain. Ciel ngah, I'm coming. Rimuru came directly in front of the entrance of Ciel's pussy. He heard her gasp as both her eyes and mouth opened wide. He watched as his semen covered her thighs and pussy as it slid down slowly on her legs. Moss. But Rimuru didn't let her finish, and he transferred them into his imaginary space. Opening her eyes, Seal was surprised to see her master with 3 other copies of him. They were all smiling at her, their eyes looking mischievously hungry. She involuntarily smiled, and he let out a short chuckle. Watching them walk towards her, Seal waits. She looks down and sees that they were already ready, their cooks erect and throbbing. Seal gulps. She was getting impatient, but she couldn't make herself look weak. Circling her, Seal feels their hands touching her, groping her body, feeling them, squeezing them. Her breasts, her stomach, her waist, her ass, her pussy, and her thighs. After touching her, they then started tasting her. One kissed her, one nibbled and licked her ears, one bit and kissed her neck, one suckled on her nipple and massaged her breast, and the last one licked her pussy and teased her asshole. They were relentless. They didn't stop even after she came from their attacks. They turned her brain into mush without even fucking her. Feeling weak, Seal falls to her knees, panting and out of breath, but at their mercy. Seal was then confronted by their cocks. They aimed them at her, forcing her to face them. She could only smile. Seal watched as they all were already leaking with pre-cum. Opening her mouth, Seal sucked on the penis that was in front of her, while grabbing one at each of her hands, and started stroking them at the same time. Knowing one is getting left out, she alternately switches sucking both cocks. Goo, Seal, you are such a talented slut. Rimuru speaks as he grabs her head and starts thrusting deep into her mouth. Gawk, Haggak, NHG. Seal gagged, her eyes opened wide, as her master violated her throat. She felt her throat burning, but the painful sensation was quickly turning into pleasure. She felt her pussy itching, tightening, and started leaking. Take it, GHN, I'm coming. Rimuru came in her throat, and his semen started flowing directly into her stomach. GMMNHH. Gawk glump. Seal slowly swallowed his cum, her eyes teary and her face flushed. Ah, your throat feels so good as always, Seal. Rimuru gently pats her head, and he slowly pulls out. Thanks Master Gurk. She didn't manage to finish her sentence, since one of Rimuru's clones already grabbed her head and started fucking her throat. Goo, AHNG. Seal tried to retaliate, pushing her head for a moment. Wait, cough Master Gawk. But that Rimuru didn't listen and thrust his cock again. Seal continues to get her throat fucked one after another. It ends with her with a bulging belly, her face and neck stained with semen as she lies on the floor, unmoving and gasping for air. You're so cruel, Master, Seal complained. She moved her eyes to look at her master with his clones. They were looking down at her, their cocks still hard. Grab and bring her to the bed. The original Rimuru commanded, and 2 of his clones followed. They carry Seal towards the bed. After they lay her down, they started touching her body, teasing her by kissing her shoulder and clavicle. Seal groaned. Her body was already very sensitive, since her master used his ultimate skills. Lustful God open black lens bracket Zonomy close black lens bracket at her when he came in her throat. One of the clones grabbed Seal by her shoulders and forced her to lie on her back on top of him as he aligned his cock at the entrance of her asshole, while the other one climbed on top of her stomach, placing his cock at the center of her chest. So, Seal still not willing to admit it. Rimuru asks, but Seal just turned her head at him. Smiling for a bit, Rimuru could help but think she looked cute while pouting. He climbs on the bed and pokes the head of his cock at her pussy. Ready? Rimuru asks. He didn't hear Seal answer, but he did notice her eyes waiting with anticipation. Taking it as her signal, both he and his clone entered both of her holes and started moving. Ah, Master, Master. On, Seal starts moaning. It wasn't the first time her master double penetrated her. They already did it multiple times, sometimes with toys, but most of the time with his clone. Looking up, she saw one of her master's clones trying to use her breast for a boob job, but since she's only A+ in size, it wasn't enough to cover his entire girth. Cupping her breast, Seal stretched her breast and used her hands to compensate for her shortcomings to wrap around her master's cock. Will this, suffice, Master? She asks in between her moans. Yeah, the clone started moving his hips. Ah, Seal, this felt incredible. it feels nice when your nipples brush on my cock. Yes, it feels good, For me too, master. Please, nah, faster, faster. Seal watched with a wide smile. She saw the tip of his gland start leaking with his semen, and she couldn't help the urge, so she started licking it. Feeling a hand pat her head, Seal looked at the other clone of her master. Suck me, Seal, he said, and he moved his cock in front of her. Ah! Without answering, Seal opened her mouth, and she welcomed his full length inside. This is the first time for Seal to be used this much, but she doesn't mind. In fact, she feels relieved to be desired by her master, so much he wanted to use every part of her body at the same time. Her asshole, her pussy, her breast, her mouth, it was all for her master. Only he could touch her, use her, in any way, in any form. It doesn't matter how many clones he used. She will do her best to serve them. It doesn't matter if her master breaks her, as long as he is happy. Ciel's only fear is what if her master got bored with her, got tired of her, replaced her. The first time Ciel felt threatened was when her master showed Majoran so much attention and love. Her core trembled in fear and jealousy for the first time. We are coming, Ciel. The original Rimuru groans as he starts pounding her faster. Ciel's eyes never winked, and she started moving her hands and breasts to pleasure the clone of her master that was using her breasts. Cum ngrm. Master. Ciel speaks and moans while her mouth is being used. Her throat tightens and vibrates when she talks. It adds to the pleasurable feeling, causing the clone to come first, flooding her mouth. Ciel closed her eyes when she felt her throat being filled once again, only to quickly open them when the rest of them came. Her eyes rolled back behind her head as she felt both her womb and stomach were being filled to the brim. Her stomach was starting to look like a balloon. Hua, Argan. Ciel's hand grasps the fabric of the bed, her pupils contracted, and her tongue hangs out. Feeling the absolute pleasure, Ciel came once more, squirting on her master's pelvis as her body shivers. After they stopped, both Rimuru pulled out of their holes and moved in front of her face. Clean as, Ciel, he ordered with a warm smile on his face. Ciel smiles, a satisfied, aroused, empty head smile. She slowly sits on her knees while holding her bulging stomach like a pregnant woman. She started licking their cocks before she sucks them one after another, cleaning them. You did great, Ciel. Rimuru complimented while patting her head. He watches Ciel smile as she rubs her cheek on his cock. But we are not done yet. Shocked, Ciel shot her head up, eyes wide and mouth tensed. What? But, Master, we only come 2 times, it wasn't enough, we are still hard. Rimuru answered her. Ciel's whole body got tensed, but it was for her master. It was her job to satisfy him, to be used by him, even if she ended up broken. So, for his sake, she's willing to do everything. Okay, master, as you wish. Ciel opened her mouth, and to make it wider, she used her fingers to stretch her cheeks, showing him the full view of her mouth and throat as she stuck out her tongue. Use me as you she heat. The group of Rimuru feels their cock got harder, and they all have one thing on their mind: to utterly dominate Ciel and use her until they emptied their balls. Since time doesn't move in the imaginary space, Rimuru returned to his room at the same time they left. Stretching his body, he was satisfied with his intimate time with Ciel, but it was not enough. Nothing that could be done. Majoran is not back yet, back to work, I guess. He sighs and returns early to his office. While walking, Rimuru noticed an interesting sight. It was Albus and Benimaru. They are arguing. Albus looks like she's in pain as she keeps yelling at Benimaru. Of course, to not be rude, I decided to hide. It was not my intention to listen. It's just that they were blocking the hallway of my office. If I show myself, it would become awkward, and I don't want to involve myself. It was a family problem, and it's not my best forte to be the judge. I'm still single, and died single in my past life. I have no experience with those kinds of problems. As I rested my back against the wall while waiting for the argument to end, I started to think. Yup, I could make this my reason for skipping work. I ended up scooping and left for the break room. Now free and enjoying my hot cup of tea, I tried to clear my mind of any indecent thoughts. Crap, I can't keep my mind away from lewd things. This tea is relaxing. my mind and mouth are not coordinating well. Still, what did Benimaru do to make Albus that angry? It sounds serious. She's a reasonable and smart woman. To make her so mad to the point of forcing her to create such a scene in public, good thing there's no one around other than me. I place the cup down and exhale. I didn't expect Benimaru to screw up. Rimuru stayed in the break room for quite a while, enjoying the fresh wind and the serenity of the vibrant garden, deep in thought. He was thinking of ways to end the day in peace when a sudden and loud slam surprised him. Wah! Rimuru lets out a quick shriek and quickly turns to look at the perpetrator. Who is it? Wait, Albus. What are you doing here? Rimuru questioned, surprised to see the beast woman. Lord Rimuru. I'm sorry for my impulsive action, I didn't mean to surprise you. Albus bowed and apologized. Blushing, Rimuru waved his hand and looked away. No, it's all right, it's rare for you to come here, Albus. Crap, I stare at her boobs, Rimuru thought. He felt his penis starting to harden. Haha, yes, I'm shocked, I thought you would be working at his time of day. She walked and took a seat next to Rimuru, but at a distance away. Well, you see, I decided to take a breather. I don't want to burn myself out, and it's just a few minor documents. Nothing to be concerned about. Albus giggled. Calling the requests of foreign nations negotiations and treaties minor is a brave thing to say. Well, she takes a peek at Rimuru. Not like they could do anything about it. Rimuru laughed lightly and looked at the sky. They're killing me slowly and painfully because of those papers, though. That's the reason Lord Carrion chose not to negotiate with humans. They're a pain to deal with. You could say you dig your own grave, Lord Rimuru. Albus joked, and Rimuru groaned. She then looked and said to Rimuru. You heard us right, Lord Rimuru. I saw your image for a brief second before you turned and hid. Rimuru looked down and nodded slowly. Yeah, it might not be my place to know, but could I hear the reason why? Haha. Her hand clenched, and her expression turned painful. I'm jealous, I believed Benimaru was not giving me attention. Rimuru's mouth opened slightly, but it took him a few seconds to speak. He's neglecting you. That's what I believe. I think Benimaru prefers Momiji, he loved her more than me, or maybe he never really gained any feelings for me. Tears start to form at the edge of her eyes. I'm thinking, maybe it's better for me to return to Urizania. What do you mean? Rimuru stood up, shocked. I feel like I do not belong here anymore. If Benimaru does not care about me, then it's better if I just leave. Albus started wailing. She stood up and faced Rimuru, her hands clenched so tight that her nails dug deeply into her palm. Then what if I talk to Benimaru to clear things? That won't do. You know how loyal he is to you, and it will only make me look bad. She turns her back on Rimuru. Thank you for everything, Lord Rimuru. I'm grateful for letting me live in Tempest. It's truly been a wonderful experience. Albus starts to walk. This is bad. If she leaves unannounced, her Beastman military unit in Tempest will start a riot. Rimuru panicked. Without Seal, his thought process became more impulsive, and he sometimes lost his chill quickly. Rimuru hurriedly stood up, but his foot slipped because of the carpet underneath the tea table, and he accidentally grabbed Albus's dress and pulled her down with him. I slipped. He stood up and slowly opened his eyes, but he felt something soft and squishy underneath his hand. Rimuru heard a moan, and his eyes widened from shock at the sight under him. It was Albus, with her kimono pulled back, exposing her breasts, and his left hand groping her. Rimuru starts stuttering, his mind a mess. Multiple thoughts invade his mind, but none of them are for the better. He starts imagining indecent scenes of himself and Albus. Albus's expression is that of shock. Currently, one of the most respected and dignified demon lords, Rimuru Tempest, pulled and pinned her to the ground, undressed her, and then grabbed her breast. She doesn't know if she should feel proud or embarrassed. Not even her husband, Benimaru, was this forward with her, much less touch her. Her mouth opened and closed. She wanted to say something, but nothing came out. She only stares at Rimuru's yellow golden eyes, mesmerized. Was it always this beautiful? She thought to herself, unknown to her, that she accidentally inhaled a pink smoke that leaked out of Rimuru's body. Crap. Open black lens bracket Zonomy close black lens bracket got accidentally activated. It's hard to control it without the help of Seal. He whispered and quickly moved away from Albus, wishing he hadn't inhaled the smoke. I'm sorry, Albus. I was trying to stop you, but I suddenly tripped. Haha, anyways, I think we three should talk about your problem first. Rimuru sweated, and while on the inside, he was slightly panicking. Because he accidentally activated open black lens bracket Zonomy close black lens bracket, its effect on his lust was getting stronger. Without Seal managing his skills, he was having a hard time controlling them since all his focus was being used to control open black lens bracket Azathoth close black lens bracket. Rimuru watched as Albus slowly sat up, praying she wasn't affected, but he guessed he didn't pray enough since Albus pounced and pinned him to the ground. Ha ha, Lord Gu Rimuru, Albus called in between breaths, her body sweating and her eyes craving for intimacy. Albus, calm down, you got affected by one of my ultimate skills accidentally, Rimuru called out, but it seems Albus was not listening as she pressed her breasts on his face and pinned his torso. It's unbefitting of me as a former member of the Beastketeers and leader of one of your military units, but MNN. I can't keep myself composed anymore. I need someone strong, someone worthy on. To take me to impregnate me. She starts to massage Rimuru's face with her breasts by pressing and swirling them in a circular motion as she rubs her pussy up and down on his growing penis. I was an idiot to choose Benimaru, of course, who would be more fitting other than Lord Rimuru. Ha ha, please, Lord Rimuru, give me a powerful offspring. Hi. I'm feeling it, your strong and mighty member. Albus begged as she rubbed and pressed her body against Rimuru. She was forceful, desperate, and dependent. Of course, such advances might overwhelm someone. It's probably one of the reasons why Benimaru continues to be so evasive of her, but for Rimuru, who's craving for women's affection because of his enhanced lust and vitality. Remember, it was you who tempted me, Albus. Wouldn't be able to say no to her. Albus felt a hand placed behind her head as she suddenly got pulled down. Rimuru captured her lips, his tongue crawls inside her mouth forcefully, and invades it. Albus's eyes got teary as she closed them. She feels her whole mouth getting explored, but then, Rimuru's tongue starts to go deeper, and it travels all the way down her throat. Gurk. She feels amazing. His tongue wriggles as it starts touching the parts inside her throat that she didn't know would give her pleasure. As Rimuru feels her throat, he then gives her body an inspection. He changes their position so she sits on his lap, and he moves his hand around her body, feeling her breasts, waist, hips, butt, and her tights. He was pleased with the result. Her body was toned but soft in the right places. Her breast was firm, but bouncy, her waist was lean but curved at the right proportion, her abs, as expected, were trained, but it added to her allure, and her ass was also firm, but felt good to the touch. For short, she's a good woman. Rimuru pulled out his tongue and looked at Albus. She was gasping for air, but her expression was blissful, indirectly telling him she wanted more. Did it feel good? Rimuru asks with a playful smirk. Albus's smile widened, and she groped her own breast and extended her tongue to lick at her own nipples while giving him a coy smile. After what you let me experience, how could I say no? He feels his cock has hardened to maximum. He stands up and walks. Rimuru then sits on the Zotaku less than Japanese small table furniture greater than. Pulling down his pants, he shows Albus his penis. Do I need to tell you what to do next? Albus stares at it with awe. Other than Phobio, Albus has never seen anyone else to compare Rimuru's penis with. She started salivating. It's been so long since she saw one. At their home, Benimaru never advances their relationship, so she could only please herself to satiate her urges, but it was never enough. She planned to leave Tempest and return to Eurazania to fix her relationship with Phobio, but after seeing such an amazing sight. Albus immediately crawls and takes Rimuru's cock in her mouth. She uses her long tongue to coil around his shaft as she starts deep-throating his cock. Goo damn, so intense, are you that deprived of sex? Rimuru instantly grabbed her head. This feels great, your technique with your tongue is amazing, and the tightness of your throat is expected of a snake woman. Albus continues to deep-throat Rimuru while she teases her own pussy by playing and pinching her clitoris. Albus, I'm coming, Rimuru told her. Albus feels his penis swell. She constricts her tongue and throat a bit tighter and sinks his cock deeper into her throat, taking his full length inside. Rimuru tried to sink deeper after feeling such an intense sensation inside her mouth. He tried to force her head harder into his pelvis as he stood up. URMN. Albus's eyes softened as she felt Rimuru's hot cum flow inside her throat down to her stomach. She kept stroking his shaft with her tongue inside her mouth, trying to squeeze more, but Rimuru started to pull out. "You were amazing, the best so far," Rimuru complimented, and he cupped her cheek, looking at her in a new light. "I see, I'm glad." Her heart throbbed at the compliment. "How about we move to my room?" Rimuru flicks his finger, and he teleports them to his personal quarters. Albus falls to the bed, shocked at the sudden spatial movement, but her shock suddenly fades as she feels a pair of fingers go inside her pussy and a tongue circle around her nipples. "Ah," she moaned, and her body shivered. "Lord Rimuru, Han, not so sudden." But Rimuru never stopped, and he inserted another finger. Now there are 3 inside her, as he only picks up the pace while his thumb rubs her clitoris. "Ha, Lord Rimuru. Please, NNHG. Mercy, it's too much. I'm going crazy." Albus's back arched, her long tongue hangs out, but Rimuru immediately took it in his mouth and started sucking on it. He lo Lord ha Rimuru rough, too rough has so good. Albus's mind went blank. As soon as he inserted his fingers inside her pussy, Rimuru increased the percentage of open black lens bracket zonomy close black lens bracket to 20%, since she was a strong Majin. Rimuru thought that she could handle it even if he increased it to 30%, but suddenly increasing it might break the target, so Rimuru increased the percentage slowly. But it was still too effective. I'm coming." Albus came, and she squirts on the bed, it was like a hose. Rimuru was shocked at how hard she came. She must have been really pent up, he thought as he moved to look at his hand. "That was amazing, Albus." Albus looked away, embarrassed. Please don't call me out, it's been so long since." Her face was flushed. Rimuru smiled, thinking it was cute. Rimuru then climbed on top of her and kissed her on the lips, and then slowly trailed down kisses until he arrived at her pussy. He kissed her clitoris, and then he opened her folds with his fingers and kissed her entrance. Rimuru heard Albus's groan in pleasure. He started licking it at first before he inserted his tongue, just like what he did to her throat. Rimuru elongated his tongue to reach deeper. Albus's eyes widened as her mouth gaped. This was the first time she experienced this, and it felt incredibly amazing. Every time his tongue moved in and out, her insides stretched. The tip of his tongue even reached deep and touched her cervix and teased it. "Ah, yes, Lord Rimuru. MMGN. More. I want more." Albus sits up and grabs hold of Rimuru's head, pushing his head harder into her pussy as she starts grinding her hips to feel more pleasure. Rimuru moves his tongue faster as he starts swirling it around inside her. He heard Albus's voice get louder and crazier. "Yes, just like that, you could be rougher. Devour me, NNGH." Albus bit her index finger to stifle her moans as she felt getting closer. But as soon as Rimuru decided to penetrate her cervix with his tongue, Albus immediately moaned out loud and she came. She fell to her back as her body stiffened and shivered from the sensation, and then she saw Rimuru above her. His mouth seemed full of something when he suddenly kissed her. Gulp. She felt something warm enter her mouth, then she realized it was her love fluids. Rimuru was forcing her to drink her own nectar. "Ha!" Rimuru moved back and smiled. "That was your punishment. How brave of you to use me as your pleasure toy." Albus felt her body run cold, and she immediately crawled back, bowing her head. My apologies, Lord Rimuru." Although it excited her, her instinct and mentality still uphold the rule of the hierarchy. Since she shamed her master, it also stained her pride. Rimuru chuckled as he watched her cower. He then forced her down and bit her shoulder hard to the point that it bled. Because of his skill, the pain turns to pleasure, but what Albus heard next turns her loyalty to devotion. "I heard from Carrion that bite marks are a mark of belonging. Then from now on, you are now my possession," Rimuru told her as he licked the blood that was left on his lips. Albus felt her whole body and soul electrify, tears forming and sliding down her cheek. She thought she lost her place in Tempest, but Lord Rimuru took her under his wing, saved her, and now loves her. Her heart throbbed, it's beating so fast it hurts. Rimuru leaned down and started kissing her neck, and moved down to her clavicle and breast. Albus lovingly hugs his head and lets out soft moans. Until she felt his penis touch the entrance of her pussy. "Are you ready?" Rimuru questioned as he looked down at her with a smile. Albus smiled and tightened her hug around his neck. "I've been waiting the whole time," she answered, and then she felt it. Slowly, Rimuru started to push forward. She was about to moan after feeling how much his girth stretched her inside, but Rimuru suddenly kissed her, muffling her moans. Rimuru started moving. He placed her legs on top of his shoulder to reach deeper into her pussy. Since Albus is physically active and trains her body daily, she is much tighter than Majoran. But Majoran is more pleasing to the touch, since her body is softer, more developed, and mature. Albus, too, is beautiful, but Majoran knows how to use her charm better to attract and please him. Rimuru continues to pound her pussy and feels like he's about to cum. "I'm about to cum, Albus. Inside. I want your seed inside me." She hugged him tighter. "Gah, take it all." Rimuru came and filled her uterus. His excess semen leaks out of her pussy, and slides down her anus and travels to her back. Rimuru slowly pulled out his cock. Even though he had already fucked her, he still struggled to pull out his cock, since it felt like each time he tried to pull out, her pussy was sucking his cock back in, and her muscles were clamping his cock in place. Honestly, her pussy is better than Majoran's. Gently placing her lower body in bed, he takes a seat beside her. That was amazing. But it seems Albus still hasn't had enough. She moves and crawls towards him and starts licking his cock. Her long tongue coils around his shaft and starts moving up and down, jerking him off. Smiling, Rimuru gently caresses her head and then cups her cheek, lifting her head to look at him. "Still want more?" he asks and watches as Albus smiles and nods her head. "Fine then." Rimuru stands up on the bed and carries Albus into a different position, positioning her so her head hangs at the end of the bed as she lies on her back. Now standing in front of her face, Rimuru licks his lips as he positions his cock in front of her mouth. "Open your mouth, Albus," he ordered, and Albus willingly followed. Rimuru slowly inserts his cock inside her mouth, watching as his penis trails through her bulging throat. Placing his hand on her breast, he squeezed it tightly before he started moving his hips. He moved slowly at first, since he felt good inside Albus's throat, which was wet, slippery, and tight. True to her species, her throat was awesome. It felt like it had a mind of its own. Her mouth felt like a pussy. Her moans even add more pleasure since each moan makes her throat vibrate. Slurp, slurp, hum. Albus continues to suck hard to pleasure Rimuru, while her tongue massages his balls. She was fingering herself. Having her throat treated like a pussy excites her. She never knew she had this kind of kink, but she didn't mind, as long as it gave both her and her lord Rimuru pleasure. Albus had already come multiple times. Rimuru, midway through their sex, decided to increase the percentage to 30%, and it turned Albus into a fountain. His bed is soaked with her juice. No matter how he fucks her, it will guarantee to make her come multiple times. Even if she feels pain, it will turn to pleasure. Ha ha ha, how is it, dear? Does it feel good? Albus continues to move her breast up and down, giving Rimuru a tit job while her long tongue licks and circles around the head of his cock. Her smile is wide, her mind is blank, all she is now is a sex-drowned woman. Addicted to both pleasure and his dick, he didn't expect this outcome. He miscalculated since Seal is still asleep. He wishes she would return to normal tomorrow, or he will need Seal to help him fix her. But for now, he will drown in pleasure with her. "I'm coming." Albus took the head of his cock in her mouth and started drinking his cum. "Gulk ugu ha hee hee dear, you could still cum so much." Albus then sits on the floor and spreads her legs. "Please, I want more, dear, my pussy still craves for more." Rimuru stood and knelt before he inserted his cock into her pussy. She was still tight despite how many times he fucked her. "Fine, I'll accompany you." Rimuru smirks and inserts his dick into Albus's pussy. The day ended, and Albus ended up sleeping in Rimuru's room. It was satisfying, and Albus is such a great partner. I don't know why Benimaru ended up neglecting her. The next day, Majoran finally returned with her wonderful news. She's finally divorced from Yume. I appointed her as my advisor. Being a former queen, she's familiar with handling foreign affairs and politics. I would love to have her as my secretary, but Diablo handles it better despite being absolutely weird. It would be nice to have some intimate times with her in the office all the time. By the way, Today is one of the rare days of being free from work. It's not a day off. A ruler doesn't have a day off. It's just that there are no documents today, which means today is a free day. My lord, I heard someone call, and I turned to look. It was Ultima. My lord, are you free today? She asks, and hugs my arm. Her small breast presses softly, and my hand is placed on top of her navel. Looking at me longingly, I could already guess what she wanted. I leaned into her ear and whispered, "Fine, I'll give you what you wanted." I see her eyes beaming with joy and craving as she started pulling me. Ultima pulled me into an alleyway in a deserted and unpopular part of Tempest. Falling on her knees, she hurriedly unbuttoned my pants and pulled down my boxer. Ah, my lord's great and majestic penis. She gazed at her lord's cock. She felt it first with her hands before she started rubbing it up and down. Moving her face closer, she starts sniffing it, starting from the tip down to his balls. Glup gook. Ultima took her lord's balls into her mouth, sucking, licking, and massaging them inside. Ultima, like that, it feels good. Hearing her lord moan, it gives Ultima both joy and pride. Fastening the pace of her hands, she felt his lord's cock throbbing. So, she let go of his balls and switched to sucking and deep-throating his penis. Gok slurp SHLP, feeling his long and girthy dick in her narrow throat sends shivers down Ultima's whole body. Grabbing her head, Rimuru forcefully pressed it deeper, forcing Ultima to take it whole and deeper in her throat. Ultima's mind went black, and her body went limp. The sudden shock and pleasure seemed to fry her brain, and because of her lack of resistance, Rimuru started moving his hips freely and used her like a fuck doll. I'm coming, Ultima. With a last and powerful thrust, Rimuru cummed inside her mouth without mercy. Ultima could feel his semen running down her throat and towards her stomach. It was too much that the excess fluid started climbing up, causing her cheeks to puff. Despite the odds, Ultima still forced herself to swallow it all, and she did. Not a single drop was wasted. Showing her successful struggle, Ultima opened her mouth wide and stretched her cheeks with her fingers, revealing to Rimuru a clean mouth. Patting her head, Rimuru then roughly picked her up by her arm and pinned her to the wall. My lord, Ultima wince in pain. Rimuru lowered her stats to a normal human and locked her skills, but left her regenerative ability unlocked. Ripping her clothes, Rimuru revealed her petite body to the world. Her small breasts, her pink, erect nipples, her hairless pussy. Despite this, Ultima's body trembled in joy. She felt pleasure in being handled roughly by her lord. She felt her lord's fingers penetrate her pussy, playing with it roughly. Pressing his body against Ultima, he pinned her against the cold wall behind her. You want it like this, right, my little demoness? Yes, my lord. Hurt me more, Ultima said, and Rimuru felt his hand get slowly drenched with her fluid. Taking his finger out of her pussy, he looked at his drenched hand before shoving it into her mouth. Clean it, Rimuru ordered. Lick sherp ha sherp mmn. Ultima followed her lord's command and cleaned his finger with her fluids diligently. Grabbing her tight, Rimuru lifted Ultima's left leg and, without any warning, he thrust his penis deep into her pussy hole in one go. Ah! Ultima yelled in shock, but the surge of pleasure made her hug Rimuru tightly for support. Removing himself from her hug, Rimuru turns Ultima around and grabs her hair. Rimuru then pushes her face against the wall in front of her, and he pulls her right hand. The action was quick, rough, and violent, but it only made Ultima hornier and wetter. By the time Rimuru started thrusting deep into her pussy, Ultima started moaning out loud, her ragged breath full of lust and ecstasy. Her tongue hangs loose, her eyes teary, her pupils contracted, but not once did it look to be painful. On the contrary, Ultima has already cummed multiple times, and without any help from Rimuru's ultimate skills open black lens bracket zonomy close black lens bracket. Pulling her head back using her hair, Rimuru let go of her right hand and wrapped it around her neck, choking her as he pulled her close to his body. Rimuru carried Ultima by her neck and forced her to lean on his body as he continued to fuck her barbarically. His left hand let go of her head and roughly grabbed her breast. Moving closer to the wall, Rimuru pressed Ultima against, and with a last forceful thrust, he finally cummed inside her. Ulga, Ultima moaned, her cheek and forehead rubbed against the cold wall in front of her. She felt Rimuru pressing her harder as the entire front of her body was getting squished against it as he continued to come. Leaning closer, Rimuru whispered to her ear. "We are not done yet, you little demon." Carrying Ultima, Rimuru tosses her body to a wooden crate. She lay there on her back, motionless and breathing roughly, but the excitement that was showing on her excited, red blushing face was irresistible to his eyes. Slowly grabbing her neck with her hands, Rimuru started choking her. Ultima's body started showing some resistance, her body spasmed as her mouth started leaking saliva, and even her eyes were getting more teary and leaking tears. But she still smiled, her face getting redder from pleasure, and her pussy started leaking her nectar, creating a small puddle beneath her. "Mo more," Ultima squeaked her plea weakly. Feeling his penis throb from her begging, Rimuru penetrates her pussy again and roughly fucks her while pressing his hand on her throat harder. Rimuru felt her pussy get tighter every time he treated her more roughly and harshly. Even now, even when she was getting suffocated to the point her face was turning darker from the lack of air, her pussy was getting tighter by the second. Not only that, the flesh inside her felt like it had a mind of its own. It moves and shifts exactly where it will give him more pleasure. If Seal could do it much better, Ultima's pussy would be the best there is. Pulling his hand out of her throat, Rimuru heard Ultima immediately gasp for air. Giving attention to her small but soft breasts, he leaned in and immediately sucks and bit her nipples. Rimuru heard her moan, but when he bit her nipple harder and then pulled it, Ultima moaned louder and she cummed immediately, squirting her juices directly on his pelvis. Feeling he was about to come again, Rimuru grabbed her waist and started fucking her harder and faster. With a couple more thrusts, he cummed again inside her. Taking a few breaths, Rimuru slowly pulled out his cock from inside her and sat on the crate behind him. "Hey, clean me up," he ordered, and slowly, Ultima moved and, with shaky legs, she walked and bent on her knees right in front of Rimuru's open legs and started licking and sucking his cock. EHMMSHLP. MHMN. Ultima licked and sucked his balls first before she licked his shaft and started sucking the head of his cock. Not for long Ultima started deep-throating him, forcing his penis to penetrate the narrow passage of her throat. "Damn, Ultima, I said clean me, not eat my cock," Rimuru said with a pleased tone as he grabbed her head and started bobbing it roughly up and down until he cummed again inside her mouth. "NNNMM." She moaned, but she pressed her head deeper, forcing her lord's cock to reach deeper into her throat and feel his warm seed fill her stomach. Slowly, she moves her head up while hardly sucking her lord's cock as she frees it from her mouth. "Ah, all clean, my lord." Gently patting and caressing her hair, Rimuru gives her a gentle smile. "You did great," he complimented. Ultima smiled at her lord's praise and giggled. Pride swells her heart, and butterflies flutter on her stomach, giving her a bubbly, joyful feeling. But all of that vanished when she suddenly felt her arms and legs being restrained. Opening her eyes, she saw the background had changed. In front of her is her lord, smirking sadistically while swatting his palm with a leather stick. It already gives her the idea of what her lord wanted, and it sends chills down her spine as a lustful smile crept on her lips. Smack! The flat leather end of the stick slaps on her small breast. "Hi-eh," Ultima moaned. The pain immediately turned into pleasure. The stinging feeling is unbearable and addictive. Smack, smack, smack. Rimuru continues to whip at Ultima, each slap marking her skin with red bruises. Underneath her, a small puddle of her nectar, a testament to her undeniable, unique fetish. Ultima smiled hungrily, wanting to be treated like a slave whore by her master. If her primordial colleagues saw her unsightly self like this, they would probably gawk in disbelief. The known queen of pain and torture is actually a masochistic whore under her lord's touch. "My ha, my lord, please, ha, please, my lord, more." Ultima begged while her tongue hanging out of her mouth, her saliva trickling down from the tip of it down to her chest. Rimuru wasn't a sadistic person in nature. It's just Ultima makes him one. For some unknown reason, he loves to torture this demon so badly that at one time, he almost broke her entirely. But true to her hidden nature, Ultima welcomed it entirely and made her more devoted. Now her limbs are bound in chains that let her hang in the air. Ultima was getting manhandled by her lord. She was getting fucked relentlessly while getting her hair pulled. "Ah, yes, my lord, pain, more on, hurt me brea mmmn." Ultima cummed again. Stopping, Rimuru leaned to her ear. Hey, I have thought of something a bit exotic. Looking at her lord while breathing hard, Ultima couldn't help but smile and kiss his cheek. Anything for you, my lord. Unexpectedly, Ultima felt something familiar, got placed on top of her butt, but his lord's cock was already inside of her, but the feeling was unmistakable. Feeling it enter her asshole, Ultima gasped and gawked. She wasn't wrong, her lord has created another dick, which he used to double penetrate her. As Rimuru moved, Ultima felt double the pleasure. It was so much that she had turned into a mindless animal. Something that only reacted to pleasure. She moaned, loud and continuous, her eyes rolled behind her head while her tongue hung loose. It was a perfect ahegao. But Rimuru wanted more. He wants to break Ultima more, so much so that he created a clone of himself that fucked her in the mouth. Hug'em. SHLP slurp NHGM. Ha 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 ha. Amazing. Ultima, even in that state, you could still respond. Rimuru's close thrusts harder and deeper. HMGN. Gok. Ultima gagged, but the clone was merciless and continued to fuck her. By the time they were finished, Ultima was sitting on the ground. Her ass and pussy were leaking Rimuru's semen continuously. Her stomach was bloated like a pregnant woman, while she was continuing to give her lords a blowjob and a handjob. We are coming, Ultima. The original Rimuru moaned. Ultima opened her mouth wide and stuck out her tongue. Both Rimuru cummed on her face, showering her with their semen. Licking her lord's precious seed, Ultima started to clean her face, gathering her beloved lord's precious gift on her hand before drinking it all clean. Ah, thank you, my lord. She smiled wholeheartedly, and then she lay flat on the floor. Rimuru, knowing what she wanted next, smiled and stamped hard on her stomach. Hiye, agu urkk. All her lord's semen burst out of her pussy, asshole, and mouth. It was a dirty sight, but the humiliation gave her satisfaction and excitement. Ultima was a down-to-hell massive, twisted, masochistic pervert, and Rimuru, for some unknown, sick reason, accepted and loved her for it. Thank you hee my lord. Ultima smiled, satisfied, and fell asleep. Rimuru shakes his head and cleans Ultima in the place. He teleported them to her room and lay her on the bed before kissing her forehead and wishing her a good rest. He was left satisfied for the time being and continued his stroll on Tempest. A week had passed since Majoran's return, and currently, I'm now on my way towards Sarian. It was for political reasons. Elmesia, the Empress, said that Sarian is facing an internal problem and requested my assistance. I don't know what help she needed from me since she's been a longer reigning Empress, but as a close friend of mine, I'm willing to assist her. Arriving at her kingdom, we immediately went towards her greenhouse, which is the place Elmesia spent most of her time. Ordering Diablo to leave us, I entered alone. Good morning, Rimuru. Elmesia greeted me as soon as she saw me walking closer to her. Come on, make yourself feel at home, take a seat, I already have tea and pastries prepared. Smiling, I took up her offer and made myself comfortable, sipping the tea, which calms my mind and eases the stress of signing papers all day. Elmesia, how have you been these days? I asked the question first, starting the conversation. Smiling a bit tiredly, Elmesia sighs. Stressful, the nobles kept pestering me non-stop. I understand her frustration, so I questioned. What is it about? Marriage, she answered, and my face almost slumped to the table. I see, I stammered. I kept ignoring it for hundreds of years, but currently both the old and new nobles kept pestering me. I'm sure some of them are genuinely worried, but some, I'm sure, they only after the inheritance and position. I nodded. I myself kept seeing documents about requests for arranged marriage proposals, so I knew how she felt. So, why not continue to ignore it? Elmesia sighs again, longer this time. Because Aruld also joined the fray. He kept coming back to my greenhouse, pestering and giving me candidates. My mouth gawked at the shock of what I heard. Aruld Grimwald, that super doting father. Start asking Elmesia to get married. It's unthinkable. When did he gain the courage to ask for that? What is your plan now then? Do you plan to get married? I asked while still shocked. Elmesia looked at me, a bit hopeful. Can we get married? Hearing her suggestion, my mind went blank for a minute. I promise I saw the void for a few seconds before my vision returned to reality. Pardon. I asked if we could get married. Out of all candidates, you're the only one I could think of as qualified to be my husband," Elmija declared. Her face and ears were red from embarrassment, and even her lips were quivering. I instantly asked Seal for advice. This is a situation I couldn't handle alone. "Any suggestion, Seal?" I yelled in my mind. "Notice. Suggestion. Accept it," Seal replied in a monotone voice. Shocked, I got confused. I know Seal, she can get easily jealous. That's why I got confused by her answer. "Seal, what do you mean?" Elmija El Rusarian is one of the candidates as a great partner for the master. As an empress, she could handle internal and external political affairs. Her charisma, aura, beauty, power, and influence would pair well with master. Seal answered swiftly. "Although it displeases me, master's marriage with Elmija El Rusarian would benefit master greatly." Seal added. "You mention candidates, does that mean there's more?" I ask again. "Yes. Chloe Aubert, the hero of time, is a strong heroine who could face a true dragon alone on equal terms and even possibly defeat them, depending on the situation, terms, and conditions. Milan Nava, the destroyer, as the daughter of god Veldanava, she would definitely give master a powerful offspring. A possibility of a strong heir must not be ignored. With a powerful heir in thought, Velgrind, the scorched dragon, and Velzard, the frost dragon are also in strong consideration. For an interesting variety of possible strong offspring from a different race, Kumara, from the 12 guardian lords, as well as master's female primordials, are also under consideration. As a ruler of a powerful nation, the master is eligible to have multiple wives, so this suggestion is possible to happen in the future. My head throbbed hearing Ciel's explanation. I didn't think she would plan this far ahead, for multiple women, no less. "Ciel, possibility of success rate?" I asked, not like I can stop Ciel with her plans. Might as well accept my fate and ride along. All is in order, and plans have already been created. Foresight has been used to give master the best outcome for future endeavors. I stop our conversation and disable open black lens bracket thought acceleration close black lens bracket, deciding to have a much better discussion with her later. I return to face Elmija, who is looking very nervous. "Tell me, Elmija, what benefits will Tempest have by accepting this proposal?" I asked, now acting like a ruler. Hearing me, Elmasia's face turned serious, and she sat on her chair more elegantly and composed. "First, we will share all our research and resources and become a vassal state of Tempest. I will explain everything to Aruld so that he can handle the nobles and inner circles relating to Sarian's higher state hierarchy." I raise an eyebrow. Is that all? What if the nobles, the anti-U faction? Unlike in Tempest, where there is no revolting government faction, Sarian has many of them. I will personally handle them, and I will make sure no one will take advantage of our unity. No one will take advantage of Tempest by any means necessary. I hummed, seeing the determination in her eyes, and I smiled a little. "Give me a day to decide," I told her, and I saw her face become a little disheartened, but I needed to talk to someone first. "All right, I will wait for a positive answer, Rimuru," Elmija said. I stood up and walked out of the greenhouse. On my way to my prepared guest room, I saw Aruld carrying a bunch of documents. His path is heading towards the greenhouse. They are probably the candidates, Elmija told me. It made me giggle. She often teased me about my own relationship. Now she's experiencing the same, but much worse. I laugh at the irony and how things have turned. Since I arrived at Sarian in the evening, the sky was already becoming darker. Entering my room, I locked the door, but I didn't stay for long since I teleported to another location in a hidden room of the castle. At Sylvia's secret and private research laboratory. Arriving, I saw Sylvia lying on her bed asleep. This woman lives a carefree lifestyle, doing whatever and whenever she wants. How enviable, she's living the life I currently wish. Sitting at the side of her bed, I looked down at her sleeping face. I concealed my presence before I teleported. So, she won't get alerted or sense me arriving. No matter how much I compare her to Elmija, Sylvia has a more refined appearance. Maybe it's because of her age or how Twilight created her body. That man is a perfectionist to the core. So, it's no wonder that his creation looks beautiful or monstrous, depending on its purpose or his whim. Leaning in close to her face, I gently cup her cheek and give her a quick peck on the lips. I watch as her eyes slowly open and stare at me. A mixture of surprise and bewilderment could be noticed just from her dumbfounded expression. Rimuru, Sylvia called. Smiling at her, I greeted her with a calm but entertained tone. Good morning, Sylvia. Sylvia and I have a complicated relationship. After Lapace, Sarian Grimwald died in the war, Sylvia was torn apart. She hid herself from the world in isolation. I've come to comfort her after everything is settled. At first, it's because I blame myself. It was my fault, as I had ordered Laplace to spy on Yuki for me, and we had an agreement. After he finally regained his memory thanks to Seal, I promised to return him to his original body. But it didn't go as planned. Yuki discovered his espionage and killed him, and Kogli captured his soul and destroyed it. Through my continuous visits, Sylvia opened her feelings to me, and we became friends. Not until one night, when we became drunk, I asked Seal to turn off my tolerance so I could bond with Sylvia more, but it ended with us having an intimate night together. At first, we agreed not to talk about it, but it kept happening again and again. Until touching each other became normal. Of course, at first, I suggested Sylvia come with me to Tempest, but she refused. She doesn't want to get far from her daughter. After Shuna, it's a bit embarrassing to admit it at first, but Sylvia is the next person who gained my affection. My love for Seal is unmistakable and undeniable, but it seems my heart could contain more for other women. Shameful, I know, but it's the truth that I've accepted. To come and visit me ahead of time. Is there something troubling you, Rimuru? Sylvia inquired as she moved and sat up. Haha, I've come to ask you something. Tilting her head, I saw Sylvia smile. You see, Elmesia proposed a marriage. I've come to tell you. Shocked, Sylvia's mouth opened slightly. She turned her head and looked down before she looked back up at me with a warm smile. That sounds great. Did you accept? She asked. Not yet. I've come to tell you first and hear what you think. You come to me for my opinion. Well, I think it's wonderful. We will finally become a family. Sylvia clasps her hands together while smiling happily. Rimuru, I'm sure Elmesia will help you greatly. She's a smart girl and knows more about the ins and outs of politics than I. She will serve as a wonderful queen for you, she said, but I didn't miss out when she compared herself to her daughter. Getting the gist of what she truly felt, I stare at Sylvia. I saw her falter at my gaze, stopping her endorsement for a second, before continuing to praise her daughter. It's painful to hear, so I grabbed both her shoulders. If choosing between the two of them, even if I'm a close friend of Elmesia, I know my heart will choose Sylvia. Sick. I'm disgusting really. Not only do I already partake in having sexual relationships with many women, but my heart and mind kept wanting for more. I fear the consequences, but I can't stop. One thing is for sure. They all secure a place in my heart, and they are all precious to me. Stop, Sylvia, please, I told her. I don't want to hear more. I've come here to ask for your opinion, not tell you to force yourself to endorse your daughter. Sylvia stopped talking. She could feel my hands tremble on her shoulders. Do you not like my daughter, Rimuru? Not that I know. Elmesia will be a wonderful partner and she's a precious friend to me, irreplaceable, but I want you more than her. I said it. I watched as Sylvia's eyes widened at my confession, but then it turned into a painful expression. Rimuru, I know we have a complicated intimate relationship, but I'm already married, and I vowed my loyalty to Sarian. I can't accept your feelings. A painful rejection. I looked down as I gritted my teeth. It must be karma. It hurts so much, my heart felt like it got torn apart. Sylvia watched as both my arms let go of her shoulders and fell flat on her bed. She, too, felt hurt. She had feelings for Rimuru, but she promised herself to the man she first loved, Sarian Grimwald, and for the sake of her precious daughter, she needed to sacrifice her own happiness. I'm sorry, Rimuru, but please take my daughter instead. I'm sure you will fall in love with her in time, like how she already loves you. Sylvia said to comfort her precious person. But imagining Rimuru with her daughter, touching each other, having romantic nights, in the heat of passion. She could not help but replace the image of her daughter with her own. Jealousy. Her heart throbs. It hurts. She knows Rimuru already marked her heart. He got a special place in her heart, even more than Sarian himself. Moving her hand to cup his cheek, she gently lifted his head and dove in for a kiss to his lips. Before you took my daughter's hand in marriage, what about we have a night of passion, a last night together? To finally end everything, she needs to let go of Rimuru, so she decided to spend one last night to end everything. Sylvia removed her clothes in front of Rimuru and then leaned in to passionately kiss him on the lips. Taking the lead on their last night of intimacy, her hand trails to Rimuru's body, feeling his chest, and she starts unbuttoning and removing the layers of his clothes. His tie, his coat, and his shirt. Sylvia expertly removed them all. Feeling his body, Sylvia stopped their kiss and began trailing down kisses, tasting and marking Rimuru's body. She left a mark on his neck, clavicle, shoulder, chest, and abdomen. She's tasting him to make sure she doesn't forget his smell and flavor. Rimuru let her have her way with him. Does it give him pleasure? Yes, of course it does, but it also hurts him to know that this will also be the last. Sylvia finally arrived at Rimuru's crotch, which was still being hidden by his pants. Rimuru, seeing Sylvia's impatient gaze, stood up and removed his pants and underwear. Having Rimuru's penis in front of her, Sylvia first kissed the gland, tasting the pre-cum that was leaking from it, before grabbing it gently by her hand and moving it upwards so she could trail down kisses to the shaft down to his balls. Did it feel good, Rimuru? Sylvia asked as she started licking his shaft and moved down and took his balls into her mouth, sucking and massaging them. Yes, it feels good, Sylvia. Rimuru groans. It felt amazing. Sylvia knows how to please him using her knowledge and experience of their past intimate nights. Freeing his balls, Sylvia moved and started sucking his cock, slowly getting deeper and deeper until she started deep-throating him. ULHGSLCHP slurp. Ah-ha shirp. Triple A. Sylvia. Speeding her pace, Sylvia sucked harder as she grabbed Rimuru's hips and shoved her head deeper, making sure she took his full length inside. Every motion of her head, Rimuru felt the tight and narrow passage of her throat. It felt wonderful, and Sylvia's technique is impressive, not as great as how Albus does hers, but Sylvia's mouth is both soft and narrow at the same time. It feels like a warm, firm gelatin wrapping around his cock. I'm coming, Sylvia. Grabbing her head, Rimuru starts thrusting his cock faster inside her mouth. Sylvia lets him as she watches Rimuru's expression from below, her eyes never leave him from the start. Feeling his cock throb inside her mouth, Sylvia sucked harder and massaged his shaft with her tongue. Sylvia. He cummed and thrust one last time. He could feel her breathing through her nose, that's being squished against his skin. As Sylvia swallowed his semen, Rimuru looked down and saw her staring at him. Her eyes smiled the moment he looked at her, and it made Rimuru's heart skip a beat. He immediately pulled his dick out of her mouth and tackled her down, pinning her beneath him. Rimuru started licking her neck and massaging her breasts. Before leaving her neck, he left a hickey and stared down at Sylvia. He saw her smiling, but it wasn't the same smile she always gives him. Rimuru gritted his teeth. Sylvia watched as Rimuru stared at her with a pained expression. She moved her hand to touch his cheek, wanting to comfort him. I refuse to accept this, Rimuru speaks. What? Confused, Sylvia questioned. In an instant, their surroundings change. Adjusting her eyes, Sylvia noticed it was dark, and they got teleported to a room. Sitting on a couch was Rimuru, still naked and looking down at her. Come, Sylvia, he called. Thinking, Sylvia thought that Rimuru only wanted a change in scenery. They already had outdoor sex several times, so maybe he wanted to experience it one last time, but it was not outside, just another room. Thinking nothing of it, she shakes her head and crawls towards Rimuru and starts sucking on his cock again while staring up at him. The heat of their intimacy was building up again, her body was becoming hotter, not until her back ran cold when she heard a familiar voice, groaning, a shuffling sound of rubbing cloth, and a creaking of a bed. Taking Rimuru's dick out of her mouth, Sylvia slowly turned, wishing she was wrong, but the image of her sleeping daughter terrified her. Turning to look at Rimuru, Sylvia was about to complain, but he just shoved his dick into her mouth, stopping her from talking. She tried to push him back, to escape, but he struggled and forced her. Stoop Rimu GNH. Please. Sylvia struggled, but inside of her there was a thrill she didn't want to admit. The thrill of getting caught, the thrill of having discovered, the thrill of bragging, the thrill of watching her daughter's betrayed expression, and the thrill of claiming Rimuru from her daughter. She doesn't want to feel it all, but her body is betraying her. She doesn't even struggle anymore and continues to suck on Rimuru's cock, although not as aggressively as she did in her secret room. She's doing it quietly, slowly, not to make any noise that could wake up her daughter. "Please let's stop this," Sylvia said pleadingly, but Rimuru didn't listen. Instead, he grabbed her head and shoved it down aggressively. "Gawk," she gagged. "MMN." Sylvia heard Elmisia groan and the bedsheet rustle. She felt fear and prayed it wouldn't wake her up. Rimuru stroked her ear gently and then caressed her cheek. "You like this," he whispered as he leaned closer. "You like being ahead of your daughter. You don't want to let go of me, do you, Sylvia?" She shook her head, denying it silently while she resumed moving her head, now more gently, more carefully, but desperate. Rimuru stared down at her, eyes serious, as he grabbed her head and slowly, Rimuru moved her head up and down while making sure she took every inch of his dick in her mouth and throat before moving it up. Sylvia, despite her fear and worry, showed minimal resistance. Rimuru sensed it, deep inside of her. She wanted more. She wanted to go wild, but was resisting the urge. He looks into her eyes and watches her eyes blink, her emotions showing through them. Her defiance, embarrassment, lust, betrayal, and fear. Despite all that, she still craved him. In heat, her wet and leaking pussy is the evidence, and he knows it gives her shame. Still, she permits him to control her, to defile her despite her fear of getting discovered. Removing his cock from her mouth, Rimuru scoops her arm and pulls her up. He forces her to sit on his lap. Pulling her close, his mouth immediately catches her breast, sucking her nipples while his hands caress her body, feeling her bare skin. Sylvia covered her mouth, muffling her moans. She looked down on Rimuru, her face red, but couldn't find herself to resist. Her mind told her to fight, but her body won't obey. Even now, her hips move on their own and rub against his hardened member, sending jolts of pleasure through her body. Her heart is in tatters, and her mind tells her she's a disgrace. She's a failure as a wife, a mother, and a lover. She first betrayed her husband by making love with another man, then she betrayed her daughter by making love with the man she had chosen, and just earlier, she betrayed Rimuru, trying to force him to marry her daughter. Despite her broken heart, her body tells her to go wild. The pleasure is forcing her to accept him, to accept Rimuru entirely and forget everything else. Rimuru held Sylvia's ass and lifted her. She thought he just wanted to adjust their position, but when she felt the tip of his penis poke her rear hole, she dreaded it. "And no, please, Rimuru, stop, I won't be able to arge." She felt her rear hole slowly being penetrated, and to stop her moaning, she leaned in and bit Rimuru's shoulder. The pleasure rushed throughout her body was too much, more than normal, and she hated to admit it. The feeling and understanding that they might get caught multiplied her sense of ecstasy. Letting go of Rimuru, Sylvia saw blood. It surprised her at first, but she remembered that Rimuru created a physical mortal body. She licked it, tasting his blood for the first time. It tastes like iron, but she doesn't hate it. "I could feel your body shaking, your inside throbbing." Then he placed his head on her chest. "Your heart, beating fast and loud, admit it, Sylvia," he looked at her directly. But Sylvia still doesn't answer. Rimuru's eyes sharpen, and slowly, he starts to move. His movements were slow, making sure she would feel his cock entirely. Sylvia gasped for air, still blocking her mouth, not to make any noise. But when Rimuru dropped her abruptly, she let out a sharp gasp. "Grnm. Elmisia groans and turns around. Sylvia's heart almost stopped, and she glared at Rimuru, but he only smirked and took her nipple into his mouth. Her body shuddered when Rimuru started moving again, even when the tension only built up for her. She's barely holding it together. Her thin thread of resistance was slowly failing, and then she felt Rimuru's right hand creep to her vagina. She gasped. Please, don't," she whispered her pleadingly. But he didn't listen and inserted 2 fingers. He felt her body tremble. Rimuru continued to finger her pussy while he fucked her ass slowly, and his mouth sucked and licked her nipples. The sensation left Sylvia a mess, her eyes tearing up while her body shuddered from pleasure. She dedicated both her hands to covering her mouth, making sure that none of her silent moans entered her sleeping daughter's ears. Then she felt it, her climax coming. She prayed, and moved back to look at Rimuru. Their eyes met, and she signaled him to stop. She shook her head silently, pleading. Rimuru knows it, that she's close, but he didn't stop. His slow movements hastened as he deepened his fingers in her pussy and thrust his cock faster in her asshole. He saw Sylvia's eyes roll back, and she clench her mouth for dear life. As soon as he bit her nipples, he cummed inside her ass. Sylvia came, hard, so hard her whole body trembled. She could feel her tongue touching her palm as she moaned in her hand. Her liquid squirted on Rimuru's hand and dripped onto the couch, staining it. Feeling his fingers leave her pussy, she looked down and watched as Rimuru licked his palm and then sucked his fingers, tasting her nectar. Her heart raced and skipped a beat when she saw him looking at her hungrily. Leaning closer, Rimuru pulled Sylvia close and kissed her lips. He bit her lower lip and pulled it before he latched onto them again. Taking advantage of her weakened state, he preyed upon her, forcing her to submit entirely. MMN ha Rimuru ngm. I'm begging you, stop, she still resisted. Having had enough, Rimuru stopped and carried her. He then placed Sylvia standing in front of her sleeping daughter. Panicking, she was about to make a run for it when suddenly both her hands were grabbed and pulled by Rimuru. Aiming his penis in front of her pussy's entrance, he penetrates her without delay and starts moving. Sylvia bit her lower lip and tightly closed her eyes. She could not believe that they were having sex right in front of her sleeping daughter, but she couldn't deny the pleasure she was feeling. NNGH. A moan escaped her lips. MNHA mother. Sylvia's body went rigid. She immediately looked at her sleeping daughter. To her relief, she just turned, but was still asleep. Looking at her face, she couldn't help but feel guilty that she was betraying her daughter face to face. Having sex in secret and still feeling pleasure from it, she's a disgrace through and through. Tightening his grip on her wrists, Rimuru pulled harder and sped up, but evaded hitting her flesh so as not to make a sound. MHHMN. Another moan escaped Sylvia's mouth. She's trying her best, but still some escape her lips. You're so tight, he whispered as his pace turned more aggressive. Sylvia gasped as her knees buckled. Rimuru let go of her wrist and placed his hand on her hips, while Sylvia placed her hand on the bed and grasped the sheet. You're so wet it makes it hard to hold back, Sylvia. Sylvia shakes her head. Please don't, Elmisia will. But it's too late. Rimuru groaned, and his fingers dug deep into the flesh of her hips. With one last thrust, he slammed his hips against her flesh as he cummed inside of her. Ah, I'm coming. Sylvia couldn't stop her first moan before she sank her teeth into the bed sheet. Her body falls to the ground as her face is pressed against the bed, gasping, but filled with euphoria. She could still feel his warm seed in both of her rear holes and uterus. At the time being, it made her forget their situation. Her mind is still holding on to the sensation of both of their climax. Mo mother. Her body froze. It was unmistakable. That was her daughter's voice. She prayed that her daughter was sleep-talking and calling out for her in her dream. Slowly, she moved her head and looked at her daughter, wishing what she would see was her sleeping face. But her face was not on the pillow, so she moved her head up and she saw her daughter sitting, and looking down at her with a disbelieving expression. Elmisia. Her heart sank. Mother, what are you? Elmisia's mind got flooded with questions, her voice trembling as she called for her mother. Hiding her face, Sylvia spoke, but her voice was faint. Don't look please, Elmisia. Elmisia looked at her mother, naked, and then she noticed Rimuru. First, her face blushed after seeing his naked body, but then she noticed his member, standing straight, hard, but covered in fluids. Her mind processed the situation and the evidence present and came to one conclusion. Elmisia's breathing grew faster. She clenched her head and chest. She couldn't accept the conclusion she had made, but the evidence was unmistakable and was right in front of her eyes. Feelings of confusion, denial, betrayal, and anger stirred inside of her. Then her right hand moved on its own and struck Rimuru's face. The act was shocking. Even Elmisia herself couldn't believe it, but accepted the action. Elmisia, please, stop. Sylvia immediately stood up and grabbed hold of her daughter's hand. How did this happen? Elmisia questioned, her eyes already forming tears. Sylvia looked down. It's my fault, I'm sorry, she apologized, and guilt is already taking over her. She then explained everything, from the start up to the present. Sylvia said she planned that this night would be their last passionate night together, but her selfishness resulted in this tragedy. Placing both her hands on her face, Sylvia started to cry. She blames herself for ruining her daughter's love, her possible future, but when she's expecting her daughter to lash out, yell at her, blame her, curse her for ruining her life. Elymesia just left the bed, then she heard Rimuru groan. Sylvia first thought that instead of blaming her, Elymesia vented her anger at Rimuru instead, so she immediately removed her hands and turned around, but the sight only shocked her. What? She saw Elymesia kissing Rimuru passionately, and it made her heart tighten in pain. Moving away and breaking the kiss, a trail of thin saliva still connected them until Elymesia licked her lips and stared at her mother. True, it irked me, and hurt me to know, despite knowing I had feelings for Rimuru, you continue your relationship. It is also true that you two got intimate first, resulting in Rimuru having feelings for you, and I'm happy to know you are willing to sacrifice your happiness for me. She told her mother, then she looked at Rimuru with a slight glare. Now I know why you answered like you did earlier. I thought you didn't have feelings for me, but to learn that you fancy my mother instead, I was baffled, mad, and jealous. Elymesia. Sylvia sat on the ground stunned. Fufu, but now, I know who I'm up against. Smiling devilishly, Elymesia reached out to Rimuru's penis and trailed her finger from its base up to its tip playfully. Hey, Rimuru, how does it feel inside, mother? She asked, then blew a breath at his ear. Rimuru felt his body shiver. I don't really know how to answer that. Really, it's quite simple, really. Gently coiling her fingers on his penis, Elymesia gently grabbed it and started jerking him. The mixture of both his and Sylvia's fluids makes it easier for Elymesia to move her hand. After licking and kissing his neck, Elymesia continued speaking. Tell me, was it warm, tight, soft, wet, does it good? She asks. Elymesia speeds up her pace at jerking off Rimuru's penis as her free arm rubs his nipple, her lips continue to tease his neck, licking and showering it with kisses. Hey, Rimuru, will you still accept me? You know, I could be a good replacement for my mother. Her words sharply enter Sylvia's ears. It hurts her deeply. Her hands clench against the bedsheet, ripping it, her jaw tightens as her lips frown. Elymesia sucks on Rimuru's neck and with a few movements of her hand, Rimuru finally comes. Haha, does it feel good, Rimuru? My hand is soft and warm, right? Fufu and I finally marked you, it feels great. Elymesia blushed blissfully while staring at the hickey he gave Rimuru. Sylvia finally had it. She finally left the bed and stood next to Rimuru. Elymesia stared at her mother, but then her eyes widened when she cupped Rimuru's cheek and kissed him. Elymesia watches as their tongues coil together, mixing both their saliva and fighting for dominance. Rimuru even moved his hand to cup her breast and massage them. He even smiled after their very passionate kiss, which was quite different from hers. Elymesia, you need more than that to please Rimuru, Sylvia taunted her daughter. Clenching her fist, Elymesia retorts. I thought you were willing to give up Rimuru, then what's this? I realized something I just can't. It hurts, watching other women touch him, I couldn't accept it. She told her as she hugged Rimuru's left arm, his shoulder got buried in between her breasts. I'm sorry, but I changed my mind, I won't let you have him, you taunted me first anyway. A tick mark appeared on Elysia's head. That's just being childish, mother. Sylvia's smirks. I'm called the carefree and whimsical elf, remember? And so, their crazy night begins, a competition between mother and daughter for the love and attention of a single man. The announcement of Rimuru's engagement travels fast throughout the world. Many panicked, disappointed, and saddened, but those are mostly kingdoms that are interested in leeching off Tempest, kings who thought of squirming their way through the political circle of the most powerful nation, but some are truly saddened for other reasons. Many congratulated Rimuru and Elymesia. The era of teasing the all-powerful demon Lord Rimuru is over. Among those who sent their first letter was Gazel Dwargo, Rimuru's most trusted friend and mentor in kinghood. Rimuru could sense the pride in his letter, all it contained was nothing but relief and pride at his junior. Next was the king of the kingdom of Bloomond, the ever-so-decisive King Drum, who was as fast as ever with his information unit, but he was grateful. More of his friends sent their letters, but some visited him personally. One of those people is Hinata, who personally confirms whether he was really going to get married. Others who came to visit were Carrion, Milam, and my students Kenya and the others, who immediately cancelled their adventurer mission to rush to my office. The wedding will be held next month due to political reasons and agreements. Elmisia promised me that she would handle everything first before we get married, and I agreed. Sylvia herself will help her, she promised. At Tempest, my guardian lords also congratulated me. Some were baffled by my abrupt decision at the start. Like the female primordials and Kumara, I explained the benefits, and they agreed, but were still heartbroken. I promise myself that I will inform them later of Ciel's plans. A week had passed, and another shocking visitor had arrived. It was Masayuki, who is now the new emperor of the Eastern Empire. Along with him was Velgrind, his marshal and advisor. Look who's finally decided to get married. Masayuki grinded as he arrived at my office. His friendly aloof attitude brings me joy, unlike Yung's visit. This is what I wanted to experience. Returning his greeting, I waved and smiled. Well, I can't be single for as long. Do you know how many arranged marriage proposals I reject every week? Is that your only reason? He raised a brow and fell on the sofa. Shuna then serves them tea and pastries before leaving. She's still down about my sudden marriage announcement. No, I do have feelings for Elmisia. It's not about escaping extra paperwork. I said, BTW, how's your wife and kids? Jiwoo has been strict. She kept telling me not to escape work, and, he smiled, Luca started learning how to walk. Yes, in this reality. Masayuki married his former party member, Jiwoo. After forgiving her for lying to him, they slowly fixed their relationship and started dating before Masayuki was crowned as the new emperor of the Eastern Empire. Velgrind only stays to watch over Rudra's legacy and teach Masayuki the way of becoming a great emperor. To make sure the Eastern Empire doesn't fall into ruin, I looked towards Velgrind, who, from the start, I didn't hear speak. How about you, Velgrind? How are you doing? I watch Masayuki's sweat. Surely something happened for him to start sweating. It makes me nervous, to be honest. The mood of a true dragon is very fickle. One wrong word and they could destroy your kingdom in just a matter of minutes, hell, even seconds. Velzard once froze the entire cardinal world during the war. It wasn't even an ultimate skill. She simply and literally just releases a burst of her aura and the world froze. Fine, Velgrind answered, and my office went quiet. Nothing else. I asked, and she didn't reply. So, I turned my head towards Masayuki and saw him quietly sipping his tea as he looked away from me. This isn't about my marriage, right? I thought. Normally, Ciel will answer my internal dialogue, but this time she remained quiet. The day moved on, and Masayuki and I caught up to each other. I sometimes throw a question at Velgrind, but she randomly gives her answer. Sometimes she did, sometimes she didn't. So, this is the new trending shonen manga in Japan. Masayuki's eyes are literally shining like stars. Currently, I am letting him witness the new peak of Japan's amazing culture. Bakuman, Magi, Attack on Titan, Dr. Stone, and Noragami. Since he already read and finished many shonen manga, I gave him a new one that I had finished and approved myself. Also, he doesn't like overpowered isekai manga. He said this world already had many of them, so he doesn't need more in his mind. So, I only gave him my recommendation, which does not miss by the way. Ah, the greatness of the imagination of humankind is astounding. The miracles and playfulness are always beyond expectation. Masayuki stated, which I laugh at, he's always passionate about manga, that's why he also becomes Veldora's reading buddy. Is there anything else you want to do while you're here in Tempest? Turning his attention towards me, Masayuki excitedly smiled. I want to eat ramen, he said, eyes glittering like a child. I giggled and then smirked. Fine then, tonight's dinner will be Japanese food. Masayuki jumped and then ran, carrying his new books in his hand. Obviously, he's heading towards Veldora's room next to binge read his new manga. A strict, wise, respected, and royal role model in his kingdom, yet in Tempest, he acts like a kid. He could only act in his true self while he's within our home. It must be absolutely liberating. I envy him, to be able to act so freely and aloof. What about you, Velgrind? Anything else you want? I ask. Velgrind turns her head at me, her eyes sharp, like she's thinking something deep in her mind while staring at me. Do you truly love that elf? I heard her ask. I have feelings for her. Why did you ask? Feelings, is it merely an affection for her appearance? I ask if you loved her, not a petty crush. She presses, and it stops me from answering. True, I find Elmesia beautiful, but my feelings for her are not the same as I feel for Sylvia. I care deeply for both of them, but a man can't fall in love with a woman even if he slept with her once. Before I bore love for Sylvia, we had bonded for a long time, so I can't really answer Velgrin's question abruptly. I can't say I fully love her, but I do care for her deeply, I answered instead, and I notice her lips curl up slightly. I see, so it was like that, she said, which confuses me. Standing up, Velgrin walks in front of my desk and leans in. Her index finger curls and touches the back of my chin, and her thumb presses the front. Gently tilting my chin up, she forced me to face and look directly into her deep, golden eyes. Then I could still steal you for myself. Her words shocked me. I was stunned. Never in my eternal life did I think I would hear the prideful scorched dragon confess to me. What? Before I question her, I feel her lips pressed against mine. It was warm, smooth, and soft. Velgrin took her first move. The moment she saw an opening, she darted to it. Rimuru was dense. She was already giving him hints even before the war started. After he one-sidedly defeated both her and Veldora, she fell in love with him. His strength was beyond anything she'd seen, overwhelmingly incomprehensible and unexplainable. A living anomaly, no one could explain how it even came to be born. She'd fallen in love with his chaotic nature that defies all logic. She'd fallen in love with his strength, kindness, and even his moments of naivety. It was unlike Rudra, who's straightforward to understand. This blob of living chaos is a puzzle that's impossible to solve, and it attracted her to no end. At first, she waited. Her pride would let her confess first. So, she waited, and waited, until years passed by. Time doesn't matter to true dragons. They are immortal beings. So, she decided to wait and give hints to Rimuru. She even visits his office from time to talk to him and update him on what's happening to the Eastern Empire. But when she heard about his marriage, something inside her shattered. Her heartbeats triple the speed, her mind clouded by a dark fog, and her ears could only hear static noises. It was so unbearable that her body released scorching flames, burning her whole room into ash, which caused a riot at the royal castle that scared all the guards and servants. If Masayuki didn't interfere, she could literally burn the whole Eastern Empire by accident. Forcing her tongue inside, Velgrin then tangles it against Rimuru's, feeling him, tasting him, before she let go and moved away with a determined look. I will make you mine, Rimuru. Rimuru, still shocked, looked at Velgrin, who still had her tongue out, and a thin string of saliva connected them. Hearing her say that she wanted him to be hers, Rimuru's mind got flooded with questions before his face started blushing. Say, Rimuru, how about marrying me instead? Velgrin suggested as she walked around the table and sat on the armrest of Rimuru's chair, her hand cupped his left cheek and moved it to make him look at her. Stuttering, Rimuru's struggling to answer, his voice cracking at every word. His mind is still recovering. Enjoying herself, Velgrin moved again and decided to sit on his lap, facing him, as she leaned in and kissed him again. Her tongue swirling around his mouth, exploring it as she dominates his tongue, her hand slips under his shirt and feels his torso before it slides to his chest, her finger circles around his nipples. Moving her head, she then licked his lips before trailing down kisses on his right cheek, his jawbone, and then under his ear before she nibbled on his earlobe and whispered. I could do this to you every day. I will love you dearly, care for you. I could be your dream partner, forever and eternity to pass. Rimuru, I love you. She said, she confessed, her pride be damned, because the moment she saw Rimuru again, her feelings went wild. She wanted to hug him, kiss him, claim him hers, but she couldn't, because of that elf. Honestly, Velgrin wanted to fly towards Sarian and burn it to the ground, to torture that elf using her flames for the rest of her lifespan, but if she did that Rimuru would hate her, and she doesn't want that. At that moment, she knew that love was a curse. It binds her to Rimuru. It must have been the same with her elder brother, Veldanava. His love for Lucia binds him, which is why he decided to die with her. But it wasn't a terrible feeling. In fact, her love for Rimuru is greater than she felt with Rudra. It was maddening but pleasing. That's why she couldn't accept the fact that another woman had claimed him. She loathed the idea, so much she wanted to burn the world just for them to be together. Rimuru groans and twitches from Velgrin's touch. Her warm body is enveloping him, her hands warm, soft, and smooth. Her whispers are bewitching and seductive. This isn't good, he thought. Feeling a growing lump right behind her ass, Velgrind pulled away from our kiss and smiled. She gently pushes herself back and intentionally slides herself from Rimuru's erect crotch. Hearing him hiss, Velgrind smirks. You must be feeling pain from the strain. What about I help you out? Unbuttoning his pants and unzipping his zipper, Velgrind swiftly pulled down his pants without even hearing Rimuru out, and just as quickly, she pulled up the lower part of her chongsam and trapped Rimuru's erect penis in the middle of her thighs and started moving up and down. With her own flowing nectar acting as lubricant, Velgrind smiled as she pleasured Rimuru. How does it feel? Does it feel good, Rimuru? Do my soft and smooth thighs feel good? Velgrind said in between her heavy breaths, her face flushed red from both excitement and lust. Rimuru, who's keeping himself in control, finds it hard not to. His hands clenched at the end of his armrest, trying not to lose control and take Velgrind at the very moment. He needs to control himself, or someone might hear them. The city is currently filled with visitors, most of whom are royals and nobles from another country, and his building is occupied by his subordinates, who are doing their best to prepare for his upcoming wedding. One bad rumor could destroy his image, but Velgrind is giving him a hard time. His lust for her is occupying his mind, making it hard for him to find a solution. His room is a no-go since it's under renovation, because Milam accidentally destroyed it upon her visit. Her tantrum was because of my upcoming marriage. It left me no choice. Seal, please help me, I ask my trump card and most reliable partner. Notice, teleporting the master to a secluded location far from Tempest. Thankfully, she answered, and we got teleported. Seal teleports us to a bedroom. I didn't know who, but I know it's far from Tempest since she said so. Looking around, it was fully furnished and big. Gold intricately designed and filled with antiques and golden framed paintings. I heard Velgrind gasp. This was Rudra's room. I internally face-palmed. Sure, this fulfills my request, but this is totally uncalled for. Sorry, I panicked and teleported us randomly. I expected Velgrind to be mad and start yelling at me, but I was wrong, because she immediately pushed me against the bed, and I watched her undressing herself. To call her beautiful is not enough. She looks divine in my eyes. Her body is slender, like a perfectly sculpted doll. She's terrifyingly seductive. Her breasts might not be as large as Myorin, Albus, Elmesia, or Sylvia's, but not as small as Seal or Ultima's. They're just the right size. But her hips, thick and well curved, are practically hypnotic as she moves and sways them. Her butt, plump and well-rounded, I want to plant my face into them as I feel them in my hands. I gulp as I scan her body. Looking into her smiling, prideful face, I stare into her dark, golden eyes. It makes me feel she's staring into my soul, and my consciousness sinks deeper into them. Soon after, Velgrind starts crawling towards me, places her hands on my shoulders, and dives in for a kiss, but unlike the last time, this time I fought back and pulled her down as I pinned her under me. I felt her hands wrap around my neck as our kiss got more passionate. Velgrind, I called after I moved back. Yes, she questioned. I gulped. Since this is where things might get complicated, I need to explain something. I started to explain to her what had happened in Sarian, about Ciel's plan, but I excluded her existence. At first, she frowns. I saw her eyes flare with emotion. I'm expecting flames to take over the room and me included, but it didn't happen, and I heard a long sigh and a soft, warm hand on my cheek. As a king, you've been expected to have multiple wives. I'm willing to be a part of it, but I have a condition. I stated, and I gulp. I will give birth to the first child, and soon get married after Elmesia. My eyes widen. That could only mean one thing. Velgrind wants her child to be the heir to the throne. The order of marriage doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you are the first or the second. The moment the first child is born, it will be declared to be the heir to the throne if the first wife fails to give birth. It was also a big fuck you to the first wife. That is the rule of this world's coronation. It was a bloody rule, but widely accepted. Fine, I'll talk with Elmesia when she arrives at Tempest. Velgrind smiled and pulled my head, and she pushed her head up to reach my lips, locking it with hers as our tongues wrestled for dominance. Moving my hand to feel her thigh, I was finally able to feel her tender softness. My fingers sank the moment I squeezed them. With a powerful slap, the sound echoes in the room. Ha! Velgrind gasped, her mouth widened, and I immediately took her tongue into my mouth, sucking it as I slapped her thigh again. Hugh, circling my hand on her now reddening skin, I let go of her tongue and look at her now tearing eyes, listening to her loud panting breath, and watch as her saliva leaks at the side of her mouth. You like that, Velgrind? I smirked and kissed the tear on her right eye and licked the side of her mouth, cleaning her face with her fluids. Smiling, Velgrind replied, "Ha!" Unexpectedly, yes, the sharp stinging pain sends a pulsing pleasure. I see, I replied. Do you want to explore it some more? I watch her nod and I turn her around, and raise her beautiful behind up. Astonished at the wonderful view, I feel her ass cheeks first with my hand and face before kissing them. I marveled at the sight before I slapped her right butt cheek. Han! Velgrind gasped once more, but I didn't let her rest as I continued slapping her. As I watch her flesh ripple and her ass dance, my member gets harder and harder. Watching her pussy leak like a fountain, I insert my penis into the crevice of her thighs and start moving my hips. With each thrust, I could feel the gland of my penis rubbing against her clitoris as she gets wetter and wetter. Rimuru goo, more ah. Velgrind clenched the bedsheet as it got ripped even more. With a few more slaps and teasing of my penis to her pussy, Velgrind finally cummed. She squirted directly into my penis, her fluids bordering hot and warm and plenty. Falling flat into the bed, Velgrind started breathing deeply, her eyes misty with ecstasy. Looking down at her, I could not help but feel a bit of pride. Making the prideful scorched dragon moan, squeal, and fall flat on her front from pleasure sure is unheard of and an achievement not even Guy could achieve. Well, he's too busy trying to get Leon to pull down his pants to try to attract a woman. If he wanted to, Misery is down to earth, willing to undress for him. Shaking my thoughts away, I climb on top of Velgrind and kiss her cheek and start playing with her ear. I heard her moan when I licked and played with the inside of her ear. "Hey, that tickles," I heard her say. "But do you hate it?" Turning around and facing me, she smiled. "No, I like it." I feel her hands reach and wrap around my penis as she starts rubbing it. "You didn't climax, does my body not please you?" I watch her expression, saddened. To lift her spirit, I lifted her body and forced her to sit on my lap. Her legs wrapped around my back, and her whole front body pressed against mine. Feeling the natural heat of her body is pleasing. Wrapping my hands around her waist, I pulled her closer and nibbled on her neck. I heard her hum and later moan when I started sucking her skin and left a hickey. "I wanted your body so badly, Velgrind. So terribly so, I wanted to ravage you at this moment." Velgrind's face turned bright red before she looked away, obviously embarrassed. I wasn't against it. Gently laying her to the best, I aimed my penis in front of her entrance. The tip was already poking and ready to penetrate her. Looking into her eyes, I saw she was impatient, so I gently and slowly inserted my penis. To my shock, I felt something rip, so I quickly looked down and saw blood leak out of her. "Velgrind, you're a virgin?" I quickly asked, and I saw her shyly nod. "But aren't you together with Rudra?" "Rudra and I were only partners and friends. I respected him and he respected me. I used him to fight against my sister, and he uses me against Guy. It was a mutual agreement that will benefit us both. Until Michael took over his weakening mind because of his repeated reincarnations that destroyed our pact." She explained. "We were never really a couple, even though 1,000 years have passed. I got interested in the concept once, but he's too absorbed in defeating Guy Crimson that it hinders his social relationships." Stunned, I stare at Velgrind blankly, not until I feel her fold tighten that it brings me back. "U-R-K, I groaned. "Hey now, let's not talk about Rudra, let's have a good time together," she declared. Smiling, I silently agreed and started moving. Velgrind started to moan, and she wrapped her legs around my waist. Her inside was warm, very warm, and extremely tight. As I press my body more against her, she only tightens her hug, and her body starts to get warmer. Moving faster and rougher, I feel her pussy starts to leak more of her warm nectar, so each slap of my pelvis against her created a wet plopping sound. "Velgrind, you feel so warm, it feels so good." I compliment. "Yes Rimuru, you feel good too, more yes ah. Love me more, be mine." She leaned in and kissed him deeply. Pulling back, I then leaned closer, slipped my hands under her armpit, and wrapped them around her torso tightly. Shoving my head at the right side of her neck, her scent immediately invades my nose. Velbrand's scent smells sweet, like a mixture of cinnamon and honey. Unable to stop myself, I started licking her neck as I continuously and roughly pounded her pussy. Rimuru, stop, please Hugh. It's too much, even for me. Her mind is starting to blank out. It's her first sex, and it was vastly different from masturbation. She already cummed multiple times from the start of their intercourse, and Rimuru was giving her too much pleasure. It was breaking her mind. Moving his lips to her ears, Rimuru whispered, "I will impregnate you tonight." Velbrand's heart was set ablaze, her mind ran at hyper-level speed, and it kept repeating Rimuru's words. "I will have his child, I 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 will have his child. Rimuru's child, and mine, not that elf, but ours, me first I won, at last I will have his child. Yes, please, Rimuru, I want your child." Velbrand yelled. She's crying, and her smile is wide, but sweet. "Have it all, my seed." With his last thrust, Rimuru came inside Velbrand, his semen flooded her uterus, and his seed immediately inseminated her egg. Feeling her uterus get flooded, Velbrand could not help but shiver. I felt it. Rimuru's seed successfully entered to win over my egg. I will be a mother, finally, with Rimuru family. What bliss. Pulling out, Rimuru pushed himself up and kissed her deeply on the lips. His hand trails down and cups her left breast, squeezing them, feeling them before his fingers tease and pinch her nipple, making her moan. Pushing him gently, Velbrand spoke. "You wanted more." Watching him nod, she smiled. "Fine, for this whole day, I'm all yours, do what you want and whatever you want with my body." Just as she said it, Rimuru moved her body, turning it around and lifting her in all fours. He made her back arch down so her butt moved upwards. Immediately penetrating her pussy, Rimuru started moving his hips, rough, intense, and he thrust his hips wildly, making Velbrand moan loudly, her voice loud as it reverberated in the room. Staring down at her sweat-drenched hair that clings to her skin, Rimuru grabbed it and coiled it in his hands before pulling it. Velbrand's head reared back. She looked at Rimuru, whose smile was laced with lust. It made her heart throb loudly, and it made her cheeks blush. Pulling out, Rimuru pushed her to the side and grabbed her left leg, putting it in his shoulder before he penetrated her pussy again and restarted fucking her. HGN. Ah ha ha, Rimuru, Rimuru. Velbrand called her lover's name repeatedly as she tears the bed even more with her finger. "Yes, Velbrand, more, I want you even more," he called and demanded. Sinking his finger into her legs, Rimuru cummed once again inside her. Velbrand moaned loudly as she bit the comforter, ripping it. Rolling her around, Rimuru grabs the cheeks of her butt and spreads them, revealing her rear hole. Inserting his thumb, Velbrand squeals, shocked at his bold action. Rimuru. She turns her head to look at her lover. Without warning, Rimuru already pokes the tip of his penis and is now slowly descending into the depths of her anus. Yarhg. Rimuru erg. Velbrand's back arched, and her limbs stretched and sank into the bed. "Your ass is extremely tight and warm, Velbrand. It feels so good." Slowly, he starts to move, pulling slowly and steadily before he pushes in again. Velbrand's eyes were stretched wide, her pupils contracted, and her mouth open and leaking saliva. Rimuru has taken her anus's virginity as well, and she was not expecting it. She doesn't even know it can be used for sexual intercourse, and Rimuru boldly and wildly introduced it to her. Since he was moving slowly, Velbrand was feeling the muscles of her anus slowly getting stretched and feeling every inch of his penis as it violated her inside. "I couldn't take it anymore, it's painful, but it feels good as well. I couldn't understand it, but I can't hate it either. I don't know anymore." Velbrand thought as her body continued to tremble every time Rimuru moved his penis inside her anus. Feeling her inside adapt and get easier to move, Rimuru starts to move faster. "Wait, Rimuru, please, GNHNNM let me MMN breath." Slap. Velbrand shrieked, and then she felt it again, and again, and again. Rimuru started slapping her butt cheeks repeatedly as he fucks her anus. Velbrand then stops resisting. Her torso falls into the bed, and she is now using her arms as a pillow. Her mind now turns to mush, and currently she's only responding to pleasure and to the stinging pain she's receiving. Grabbing both her butt cheeks, Rimuru tightly squeezes them and starts moving even faster. He's about to come. "Velgrind, I'm coming," he announced, and then on his last thrust, he pressed harder and his cock sank deeper into her insides, which caused Velgrind to yell out loud. Her tongue hung out, and her eyes rolled back into her head before she fell into the bed. Pulling out, Rimuru gently laid down her lower body and crawls next to Velgrind. Seeing her panting deeply, he gently lay her on his lap and patted her head. "Sorry, Velgrind, I couldn't stop myself. You're just too beautiful," I told her with an apologetic smile. "There is no need to apologize. I already told you that you could do anything with my body this whole day," she smiled and looked at my still erect penis. "And it seems you are still not satisfied." Moving her hand towards my cock, she moved it close and kissed it, then licked her lips, tasting the mixture of both our fluids before smiling seductively again. Her eyes gleam with a craving for more. The corner of my lips twitches as well as my penis. I really can't get enough of her. For the whole day, we both drowned in intimacy with each other. The entire day, we only had sex. We didn't take a break. For the first time, other than Seal, Velgrind was the second one to last for this long. The next day, early morning, Velgrind is on her knees and sucking my cock, her cheeks puckered and sucking hard while bobbing her head up and down. We have had sex for more than 17 hours now and still haven't stopped. Her belly is swollen, both her pussy and anus are continuously leaking my semen, and her body is drenched in sweat, causing her skin to shine and glisten when the sun rays hit her smooth and porcelain white skin. Coming again in her mouth, Velgrind is slowly swallowing it while sucking twice as hard so as not to waste even a drop. Removing my cock from her mouth, she then sits on my lap while wrapping her hands around my neck. "This is the end of our celebration. Thank you for the wonderful time and the gift of a child." She smiled. Moving my hand to her butt, I squeeze it tenderly as I suck on her breast, leaving a last hickey. "That makes me sad, but I had a wonderful time. I'm looking forward to our child, Velgrind." Lowering her head and placing it on my shoulder, I heard her giggle. "I'm looking forward to our future as well." "Yes, I love you, Velgrind," I said as I placed my hand at the side of her swollen stomach. Placing her hand above mine, she turned her head and kissed my cheek before looking into my eyes. "I love you with all my being, Rimuru. Always and for eternity." At the Holy Empire of Lubelius, Luminous is currently having a headache. The reason? It was Chloe. The moment she heard of her precious sensei getting married, she went on a rampage. She was now lying on the only remaining unbroken furniture in her room, her precious and favorite sofa. She wasn't suicidal enough to stop the true awakened hero that could rival a true dragon. So, she let her calm herself, wishing she would stop soon, but she didn't, and Chloe blasted a hole in the room and leapt towards Tempest. "It's Rimuru's problem now, she's his student anyway," Luminous whispered to herself while swirling her cup of wine, trying to calm her palpitating headache. But she won't lie, Rimuru's sudden announcement did surprise her. She'd never thought that the damn androgynous slime would get married, to Elmesia, no less, the daughter of Sylvia, her father's former pupil. It might get interesting. Visiting Tempest might not be a bad idea, she said before sipping her wine. Returning to Tempest, we walked towards my office. The scrutinizing stare of my subordinate kind of hurts. Why? Because I'm walking towards my office while Velgrind is hugging my arm, smiling widely and proudly. It's obvious why they are confused, while the girls are probably judging me. I even heard Hikuro saying something about youth, while Benimaru is holding his stomach stress, probably. He's taking on too much responsibility and problems lately. As we walked, I noticed something: everyone is too busy. I know my wedding is coming up, but they never make such a nervous expression before. Their facial expression looks borderline scared, even. Arriving in front, I've sensed an agitated atmosphere. Like a boss-level monster is waiting for me on the other side of the door. Even Velgrind got alerted and let go of my arm and stood straight. Gulping, I slowly opened the door and saw a frowning Chloe, staring at me with a glare so sharp it made me feel smaller. "Sensei," she called, and it made me stand straighter than a plank. "Hey Chloe, how are you doing?" I asked in a weak whisper. Crossing her arms under her breasts, she walked closer and looked down at me, completely ignoring Velgrind, who was standing beside me. Tunneled vision, she leaned down, her eyes dark, like the void staring back as I looked into them. She then grabbed my shoulders, tightly, her nails sinking into my clothes as a smile crept into her face. She looked hurt, in denial, betrayed, and broken. Even if she's smiling, her emotions are in pieces and running wild. You dig your own grave, Rimuru. I heard another voice. It sounded like Luminous. She went berserk the moment she heard the news, Luminous added. I can't see her in my field of vision. She must be standing behind Chloe. Sensei, is it true? You're getting married to Elmesia? Chloe started questioning as she shook my shoulders. Yes, but why? I thought you loved me. You said you loved me. You said it when you saved us, when I confessed. I got confused and started to think. When did I say that? I thought, but then Seal brought up the memory. It was during the time in the dwelling of spirits when I saved them. She confessed, and I answered her feelings. I didn't expect her to take it seriously. She was a child back then and she still clings to it after 2,000 years. I feel guilty. She sacrificed so much, and now, because of my selfishness. If Sensei won't love me then. I feel a disturbance. My eyes widen. When I sense the time is starting to get tampered with. If I couldn't have Sensei's love, then I will just restart again. I immediately opened a portal behind her. Fine then, Chloe. I dove in and kissed her on the lips as I pushed both of us inside the portal I created. Looking at Velgrind, I sent a mental message. I will come back soon. I'll handle Chloe, don't worry. As the portal closed, Velgrind sighed in relief. She felt it when the world's time was about to be reversed. Having no authority over time, she felt fear that their child and their effort would be in vain. Wishing her future husband good luck, Velgrind walked and sat on the sofa in his office while gently patting her stomach, feeling the forming child inside her womb. Landing on another world, I moved myself up from Chloe. That was a very close call. If she resets the world again, all our hard work will vanish in an instant. I need to calm her down, but looking down at her and watching her sobbing and crying hurts my heart. She's my precious student and very dear to me, to us, both Shizu and I. Chloe, I called, and I saw her look at me with her still crying eyes. Let's go on a date. I smiled and lent her my hand. I teleported us to a different universe, a world similar to ours, a fantasy world with magic. I chose this world since a month here is worth an hour in the cardinal world. So, I could still talk, bond, and convince Chloe. I also want to explain to her the reason, the plan, everything that has happened. But first of all, I need to explain this world. This world is also called Earth. A semi-peaceful world where supernatural beings roam in secret in the land. Monsters also exist in this world, but most of them are mindless and instinct-driven. There are intelligent monsters, but their species is limited. Adjacent worlds exist in this universe, but it does not concern us. We do not plan to go there and explore much. I brought us here to bond and have a vacation, not to meddle with this world's problems. Currently, upon Chloe's suggestion, we are living in peace and have built a small business, a small cafe. Chloe, though, still looks sad, is enjoying our time together. I continue to give her my attention, care, and affection. I'm doing my best to show her I care, that I'm sorry, and that I'm doing my best. There are several reasons why I didn't pursue her, despite knowing she deeply loved me. It's because, in my eyes, she's still the child Chloe. I know, it's ridiculous, but during the war, when she vanished, her soul got transferred to the past. She lived 2,000 years or more before I arrived in the cardinal world. After catching up to the present timeline, disaster struck. I died, Hinata died, her friends died, so, with the power she obtained through her travels, she resets the time, again and again, and again, until she got trapped in an almost endless time loop. She lived longer than us, experienced literal hell. I'm thankful. Very thankful for her, and to reward her efforts, I should love her in return, but after knowing her story my feelings got complicated. But after learning, she kept clinging to my whimsical confession when I saved them. I didn't feel I deserved her. She was pure, innocent. The first don't want to take it away, be taken away by a scum like me, a scum who took the wife from his friends, who had an affair, who took pleasure after knowing the terrible deeds he committed. I wanted her to have better. She deserved better. Thank you URHG. Thank you for purchasing. I stammered as I thanked the old lady who bought a shortcake and waved her goodbye. Sweat dripped down my flustered face. Looking at Chloe, I saw her smiling devilishly. Raising her right hand, she licked the translucent liquid that was trailing down her fingers. This might be a bad idea, my heart thumps from nervousness at the possible mistake I've made. It's been more than a week since we started living here and have a cafe. We become somewhat of a local trend, since well, two beauties are working here. Yes, upon Chloe's insistence and quote-unquote punishment, she ordered me to live as a girl while we stay in this world. Most of our customers, much to my ire, are boys and single working young adults. I've noticed their lewd stares and gazes, and it made me feel disgusted and harassed. Especially when the young adults lewdly stare at us and scan our bodies, I felt shivers and molested every time. There are some pleasant customers, like young, awkward teenage couples. They are fun to watch, so innocent and pure. They are like a living bundle of diabetes, and so entertaining to watch. Our most frequent customer is a petite white-haired student from Kuo Academy. Her name is Kaneko. She's hiding it well, but we could sense it. She's a devil and a yokai, a hybrid perhaps. But, she's a well-mannered child, so we are serving her well, and sometimes give her some extra because she's a good daily customer. Chloe NHG. We were about to I moaned. It's 5 a.m., and currently, Chloe is on top of me, her left hand massaging my left breast, her tongue circling my right nipple, and her right arm fingering my pussy. I didn't know a girl's body could be this sensitive. Now I know why Myorin liked to be teased so much. Pulling back, Chloe moved up and leaned her head closer, facing Rimuru face to face. Sensei, we still have a lot of time, she said before connecting her lips to her sensei. Their tongues swirled together, coiling like mating snakes. Sinking her two fingers deeper, Chloe felt her sensei's insides tighten up. She knew Rimuru was about to come. So, she moved her hand faster, while making sure her fingers hit her critical spots. Chloe NHG. Rimuru's body stiffened and stretched. Her hands grabbed their blanket. Moving down, Chloe removed her fingers and started pleasuring Rimuru with her mouth, sucking on her entrance as she inserted her tongue inside. Sitting up, Rimuru pressed Chloe's head harder on her pussy, as she started grinding her hips, feeling like she was about to come. Rimuru wrapped her legs around her neck. MHNG. HHMN. Feeling Rimuru gushing in her mouth, Chloe's cheek slowly stretched. After swallowing Rimuru's vaginal fluid, she immediately sits up and pulls Rimuru for a sloppy kiss. Rimuru lets Chloe use her body for approximately just a few days. It's her way of saying sorry after being pressured by Chloe. MNG. Move faster Naa-sensei. Currently in a scissor position, both Chloe and Rimuru are grinding their hips, rubbing both their pussy and clitoris together. Chloe. Hoo-ah. How about this? Yes. Like that. Now create a male clone. Chloe ordered, and she watched as a clone of Rimuru got spawned beside her. Smiling and licking her lips, Chloe pulled the clone closer and started sucking his cock. She felt her sensei's pussy get wetter as she then looked at her with an eye smile. Grabbing the clone's hand, she guided it to her breast. Feeling she's about to come, Chloe hugged the clone's waist and started deep-throating him. She heard the clone moan and feel his cock start throbbing on her throat. Grinding her hips faster, she soon cummed and squirted all over her sensei's pussy, and she felt her come